Okay, hello everybody. You probably saw me, but hopefully you didn't hear what I was saying. But now you can hear me, and you can also now hear all the other people in our Discord. Hello everybody. So I'm Felix, aka Luxen. I will do the game development, and with me in the voice chat today are Henne, aka Geflügel. You know that one. And we have a guest today. That's Julian from Digitales.
Hello.
And yes, so we, as I already announced, we will work on Project Terra. There is some technical stuff we will work on. We also have a music pod, so let me resume that first. Okay. It's unpaused, but you still don't hear anything. Okay, now I hear something. Okay, so, and yeah, so what I want to work on today is hello nerds who speaks English. Okay, so the thing I want to work on today is rendering transparent things, because that's something we don't fully support yet, and I will explain this in a moment. And that will be kind of tricky, because in order to that get us to work, I need to modify our rendering pipeline. That's not really my area of expertise, because it's actually something that Flora worked on, and she will hopefully join us later as well. So if I'm stuck anywhere, hopefully she can help me. But otherwise I can show off some of the recent progress, and also we will just see how far I get. And I'm not even sure if we can fully do this in this stream, honestly. It might be more difficult, but we will just try. And otherwise, yeah, so as I said, Julian from Digitales is here today as a guest, and yeah, just so we have more people to talk about stuff.
It'd be very interesting to see what this topic looks like for you guys, because we work in Unity and it's a lot of it's under the hood, so it's probably very different.
Yeah, for the most part, at least so far, things are going rather well with the engine that we worked on. I mean, there's always obviously the porting issues, but we don't really think about this yet.
That's one way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we made our experience with CrossCode, and just hopefully things won't be as rough this time, because we're using TypeScript. So okay, before I forget it, actually let me go through our chat, and because there have been some subscriptions, one by EL2022, who subscribed for 1 year now almost. Thank you so much. And we got another one by Silver Cheers, who subscribed for 7 months already, saying Project Terra looking great, can't wait for more. Thank you very much. And also Julian subscribed for 9 months. Thank you.
Yay.
Who's that guy?
Who's that? I know. Okay.
Some bozo.
Oh no. Are we already playing the VTuber stuff now?
It's instrumental stuff, Felix.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that we have some more relaxed music at the start, and not start with that epic stuff here.
Okay.
Wait, I can throw chat commands in there to add music to the queue?
Yeah, you can do that. Just use
Yes.
-- playtop. I think you can. If not, I may have to give you a role. Actually, let me check.
Okay.
I just give you the DJ role. No, you should be able to do that.
Should be enough for the to get through the first half hour or so.
Probably got to be careful about copyright and stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
if it's just instrumental stuff, it's usually not a problem. And if it's like video game music or music that's like, how do you say it, public domain or whatever, or
Yeah, sure.
And we got a couple more subscriptions. Also, I'm already saying sorry if I miss your subscription, because the notification still isn't working. Man, everything about our streams is broken. I just need to take 1 day to fix all the stuff. Like our soundboard is broken, our notifications are broken, and I just never get around. Anyway, Kovach911 subscribed. Don't forget me. Yes, we will have this at the end for 39 months. And also Sayel von Nathan subscribed for 9 months already. Thank you. And I think that's it. Okay. I will stream now. So this is the nice map I worked on, which was very well received on Twitter. It actually didn't took me that long. I think it was only a couple hours, and a lot of it was actually not mapping, but tweaking graphics and other technical details.
Yeah, right. That map.
So pretty.
Thank you. So, yeah, maybe I can just quickly start this one to show some of the stuff that we've been working on recently. So, yeah, I mean, in the last stream I worked on letters, and well, letters are finished. That's a big new feature. We still have to see how letters actually work for NPCs and navigation. And we got a subscription by Cinderblock Creates, rating our stream with 16 people. Interestingly, that notification still seems to work. At least I heard the sound. Okay. Hello everyone from Cinderblock Creates. Now I can introduce everyone again. So yes, we are working here on Project Terra. This is an upcoming indie game by Radical Fish Games.
Sounds like a pretty great game.
Yeah, actually it's nice because now I was just showcasing stuff. So yeah, so essentially this is the thing we have here right now. You can climb ladders. The wind system has been tweaked, and actually just showcases some of the NPCs. And I think this is kind of nice that you have this kind of weather transitions and how the trees are moving. And that the nice thing about this is just a pretty basic shader, and we don't really have anything on the CPU that does those things. Actually, maybe I can show this a little bit, our render pipeline, to explain a little bit what I will be working on today. The nice thing is we have a debug view on our render pipeline here, and here you can see all the steps. And the nice thing is you can actually click on those steps and click down here on the textures, and you see actually the result for each step. So the solid path, the first solid path just renders meshes essentially. And second, the decals are added. Actually, we have decals here. That's nice. Look, those dark grass patches here, those are decals. And then we have the dynamic path that essentially adds the billboards, and you can see this is already animated then. So essentially, whenever we render the geometry, we do the animation in the shader, at least for the grass. And now we have solid dynamic overlap. It's actually interesting. What does this do? I wonder what the solid dynamic overlap path actually does. So that's what I'm saying now. This is now the stuff where Flora could explain what this actually does properly. Maybe I should actually increase this so you can see more. Okay, then we have, okay, if I now just go to solid here, you can see that there's no water. So the water is added with the water plane path. That is like the animated water. Set light alpha. And then we have light geometry. You don't see anything. The shadow path, which is interesting because the shadow path essentially renders the illuminance for each of the screen pixels. We also have shadow geometry, but I don't think that does anything because we don't use this so much yet. But what you mostly see here is that it essentially renders the shadows, I think. Or yeah, pretty much. So it's kind of like inverse, wherever, or more like, yeah, I mean, the alpha channel is pretty much the lightning. Actually, let me go to another map so I can actually show the lightning in a better way. So where is this? Nature. This is the... I suppose that is VTuber music, isn't it?
Maybe it's a BGM.
Very cute.
It's very cute. It's true. I just took some stuff from some playlists that I had.
And the game crashed. Whoops.
Oh no, VTubers made the game crash, Felix.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
obviously it has to be the VTubers. Okay.
Felix, can I ask you stuff about the stuff?
Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, very transparent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You touted your transparency, so now I'm gonna take you up on that. So one thing, is this all? Is your lighting all dynamic, or do you do any like light baking and stuff too?
It's actually all dynamic, but it's also very simple. Like, let me actually quickly turn down the music. We don't have a fancy option menu yet. We have to go in our debugger. What is this? Wow, this was only 5%. And okay, never mind. So yeah, it's all dynamic, our lighting, but it's very basic because we don't do any global illumination. So no light bouncing and all that, and that is usually what you want to pre-calculate because it's very complex to do this. So all we really do is we say everything has a certain ambient color, and then we just essentially mostly we render spheres, or sometimes we stretch those spheres, so we have spotlights like this here. But they're usually very simple shapes, and we just render them on the screen and we say those pixels are brighter, and that is pretty much it. And that's something you can do dynamically pretty easily. So that's why we don't have to pre-bake anything.
Are the shadows are they fake, or how do you do those?
Those are just shadow mapping. I mean, the idea of shadow mapping is that you just render the whole scene, or at least part of the scene, from a different perspective into a texture, just a depth buffer. And then whenever you render a pixel on the screen, you can use this depth buffer to check if this pixel that you're currently rendering is occluded by something or not. And then you can calculate shadows. That's more or less the idea. And well, it's a pretty well-known technique. A lot of games use this, I think, still today. And that's also pretty much what Flora implemented. So I don't really know the details, but maybe I can show this here. This is actually the let me check. Directional path, directional depth here. This is actually this is a nice example. You see this? This is essentially our shadow map. So see, the only thing that we render in here are actually dynamic entities, because we actually configured our interiors in a way that only entities are dropping shadows. If I actually go back to this map here, hopefully things are crashing again. Oh no, it's actually just a breakpoint. Okay, we're lucky. So wow, I actually now got I got the sound modulation from the cave outdoors. So another bug. So let me see. This is how it looks here. Now you can see it a bit better. This is essentially the whole scene is just rendered from a different perspective, and then you can sample for each pixel if it is occluded by something or if the sun reaches this position, and then that's how we can calculate the shadows in real time. That's also why the shadows are well animated for characters and all that, right?
And it's already optimized because they pop in and out depending on the distance of the player, right? If the camera doesn't see them, they're not rendered.
Yeah, we use some frustum culling. In general, like the whole scene, actually we do have this thing where you can zoom out, and I actually made this camera movement where you can almost see the whole map, and it still runs pretty good. So I think in general we just do a game that really doesn't have a lot of geometry for today's graphics cards, so they could actually render a whole lot more than what we're usually showing, even if it's based on web technologies. Like most of it is just happening on the graphics card. But in general, the idea is a lot of the geometry, mostly static geometry that isn't moving around, even like the trees are also static geometry because the wind movement is actually calculated on the GPU. All of this is baked into chunks. That means all of this geometry is just one huge mesh. And we do this for any number of tiles. I think it's like 64 to 64 tiles. So the map is just split up in 64 times 64 tile-sized chunks, and those chunks are just all the geometry in those chunks is merged together in one huge mesh. And this all happens when you enter a map. So this only happens when you load a map, and it's actually surprisingly fast because like we paid attention that it's fast, because we tried to write really efficient specialized code that optimizes the mesh creation process, because really in this game a lot of geometry is just recreated over and over again every frame. Kovac said, I bet my potato PC will run 20 FPS on Project Terra. Oh damn. Well, the thing is, I don't really think you need a very new machine, but you do need a graphics card, so that's just important. If you have integrated graphics, it might be more tricky, but my PC that I have here is actually still from 2016, I think. So this machine is from 2016. It was pretty good back then, but yeah, well, the game runs pretty decently. So
I can say that I tried running it a bit on my old laptop, which only has integrated graphics cards, and is also a bit older. I mean, you know the one.
Yeah,
and it kind of runs, but not very smoothly.
Okay, because the funny thing is, there's actually a trick to that. If you want to make this run, I implemented a low-res mode. And in low-res mode, essentially I just say I use half the resolution. And that surprisingly works a lot better. I have like a Microsoft Surface laptop here. And that one only has integrated graphics, and the game runs at least playable, even on integrated hardware, if you use the low-res mode. And it looks a bit like a PlayStation game because of the low resolution, so a lot of things yeah, more pixelated. But actually it looks still surprisingly good, I think.
Well,
but yeah.
if you ever want to see if it runs on the Switch, I don't know how much you need to do. I know that with CrossCode it was a long process. But you know I have the hardware and I'm one room over, so
well,
we can always
for
try
the
it.
Switch we really need like the compiled version, right? I mean, this out
sure.
of the box this cannot run on the Switch. I mean, the Steam Deck would be interesting to see if that runs on it.
Yeah, one of those too.
But I'm not so concerned about the Switch personally, because I think the big bottleneck usually is CPU, and we actually try to keep the CPU really lean this time. So a lot of things are more optimized, and a lot of the code is better written, so it can be easily optimized and like converted to other languages. And there's this thing that when you use graphics cards on WebGL, there's actually a lot of overhead that you only have in web technologies. So in principle, if you convert it to any other platform, it can only get better, at least in terms of how you use the graphics card. So I'm rather optimistic, but okay, there's a question. What are min points that you learned from CrossCode Improve on in this current project game? There's a lot of stuff, but the short list is we will make dungeons shorter. We added the 3D perspective to help depth perception. That's another big thing. We will try to make puzzles more accessible, so it's less tricky to execute them. We will also not go as far beyond with time puzzles, because those were at least controversial. I mean, some people liked them, but a lot of hated them. So yeah, there will be shorter dungeons, but there may be more dungeons in return. So it's not so much about having less content, but more about having better pacing. That's more the idea. Would you be able to skip puzzles? I'm not really sure I would go that far, honestly, because it feels like if you design a game and you kind of like, I don't know.
Skip puzzles? You
Skipping
mean like
puzzles. Like they're entirely optional. I don't know. I'm still on the edge of that.
I don't think
Yes, we now are making Final Fantasy 13.
Oh boy. Hello, Stefan.
Okay.
Hello.
I mean, I do know
there
that
will be a button in the options menu which is just the Square Enix experience, and when you enable it, the game is being played by just holding down the X button.
wasn't there like there was like this one other game that was relatively hard, but you could basically skip certain challenges or puzzles or boss fights or something if you fucked them up. I'm not sure which game that was.
Yeah.
Was it one that I played? Give me a second.
It might be one that you have played. Because
Yeah,
you
definitely.
remember it.
Yeah, right. No, the question is if it was one that is a recent game, or if it was an indie game or something.
But yeah, something I do consider is that we will probably keep the more challenging, tricky puzzles for optional stuff. So you can skip them, like in that you don't have to do all of them. So that's probably something we will do. But yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of optional stuff in CrossCode already, right? You don't need to do all the terrain puzzles to get to all the chests and
That's
stuff.
true. But I think a lot of people were just hung up on the dungeon puzzles, and I think the most tricky puzzles were really the dungeon puzzles.
Yeah.
Anyway, actually I was just trying to show here the pipeline, Stefan, so because I just wanted to give people an overview, because I'm trying to extend this today. I will have to add another step. There's a lot of steps already, but we need more.
I mean, when we release, we can also think about merging some of these paths, to be honest.
Well, it's pretty tricky. Like, I never will do a path if I can think of a way to integrate it with another. But this one, like, I had this idea, so maybe let me just explain like a little bit how the whole thing works. So here you can see solid geometry, everything is very bright. Oh, this is those are okay. Anyway, so here you see solid colors, and there's a water, but you can see there's actually no lighting. The lighting is rendered separately into the light map, and then the shadows are added over the shadow path. So essentially here you see that we just render, okay, here things are more reddish, and here in the shadow it's here we essentially add the shadows, and in the combined path everything is put together, and also like all the colors are suddenly in a different color space. That's actually something that Flora added, and I had no idea about this, and I thought, do we really need this? But by now I actually really understand why this is a cool thing, because it actually helps when you accumulate colors that you don't have like very strong color combinations. That actually helps that colors feel more balanced, especially if you have like a lot of light sources in the same spot or a lot of particles overlapping. And so I'm actually like a fan of this by now. But this is why it looks like this. So essentially the whole color space of the game is moved from, I think, linear to sRGB or the other way around, something like this. And then we apply effects on it. I have to use some effects here. You can see this is without effects. And here's with effects, so now you can see the effects. This includes also here the dust, you see. If I go back here, there's no dust, right? So the effects is essentially like a whole different set of geometry that's just rendered for particles and for sweeps and all kind of stuff. And then we add the radar drops, and then backfacing is essentially this here. So if I'm here, you can see, actually no, backfacing. Oh, backfacing was this actually here, that you see the back of walls. Like it's a bit hard to see because everything is very dark. But without the backfacing, you don't see the back of the walls. So that's another separate step. And then you get a lot of post-processing effects. You get the pixel correction shader, which is so subtle that probably nobody will notice them, but I insist it to be there.
What's that?
The pixel correction shader is just an attempt to make the thing a little bit more smooth. The game uses some very subtle linear interpolation. It's actually not just nearest neighbor, because that way you have less jittering when geometry moves around. I can try to show this, but it's actually it's kind of challenging to show that, especially if things are so dark. I need to go to a different map.
Is that when like the camera moves and things slightly jitter in relation to one another because the edges are so
it's kind of related to that. It just comes down to how linear interpolation when you render with nearest neighbors, how things behave if you move them between pixels. And the idea is actually I can show this pretty effectively if I just disable this. The pixel correction shader is actually like I have to go to another map to show this really. Let me go back to the other one. Okay, so where can you see that? Let me just zoom in a bit. The pixel correction shader is actually already selected here. Look at this part here. You see things are very sharp here. And if I do the pixel correction shader, you can see that it's a very subtle effect. I'm not really sure you can actually see that in the stream with the compression and everything. But things are just very slightly smoothed out here. And this actually just leads to things to just be very slightly more smooth when you, especially when you move around and slowly. And it's a very subtle difference. But up to this point, I really try to keep it in, and it still works. And if it breaks things too much at some point, you might remove it. So I'm not really sure if you will stick with it to the end, but up to this point I actually like it.
Does it change the way things are actually upscaled? So they're upscaled pixel perfect, but then like dirtied up a little bit to blur the edges?
It's mostly relevant. Okay, so maybe I can best explain this if you look at Uner. So Uno here, if it's disabled, you can actually see that at the edge things are very sharp. And if I increase it, you will see that they become very slightly blurry because there's a very narrow interpolation with neighboring pixels. But it only happens at the edge of graphics. It doesn't happen in the middle, because in the middle of graphics we use something else. And for that I need to go to the solid billboard shader. There's a sharpness property. If I increases to 1, you actually have perfect nearest neighbor interpolation. This is how it looks like. And I noticed that this looks kind of like a little bit dirty, and it looks a bit nice if you just make it slightly blurry, but not too much. So it's like a 75, like 0.75, like 75% blurry. That means we only blur if we are too close to the edge. If I make it 0, this is what it looks like. And this looks, well, doesn't look great, right? And
I can tell you in a few seconds there's a stream delay.
Okay, yeah. This is like, this is 0 sharpness. Wow. This is 1 sharpness. And we kind of like nailed it to this. To be frank, the best approach would be to make this dependent on the zoom factor, because if you're zoomed up to this extent, you probably want it even sharper. You probably want it closer to 1, but you barely see things that way. And if you zoomed out, 0.75 turned out to be like a nice value, just from experimenting. Like this is 0. You can see, again, you can see this if you see it in the game, probably not over the stream, but things are a little bit blurry, a bit too blurry. And 1 is like very sharp, and you actually start to see this. See, like there's a lot of weird jittering, and things look a bit kind of like, you see that pixels are jumping in and out and all that. But with 75, it looks like nice smooth. So it's like just the right balance. Like there's not so much jittering, but it also still looks like pixel art, kind of like that. So yeah, 0 sharpness essentially is I lost my glasses. That's what it is. But yeah, that's what the pixel correction shader does. So
yeah, you were going through them. I threw you into this tangent.
Yeah, but
it's really interesting.
I enjoy talking about this stuff too. So anyway, so in all of this here, essentially have Again, different color space, but once you reach like the tone mapping step, it doesn't work because there's actually still a few bugs here when you display the result. But anyway, if you click here, you can see now we got the proper colors. So the tone mapping path essentially turns like those, I think, linear color spaces back to sRGB, or the other way around. I don't know which one was which. So there's also a distortion shader. That's a whole different thing. But yeah, and then you get the UI at the end, and so that is essentially. I don't have any UI enabled, but if I go here, UI is gone. Here's the background, and okay, here's the UI. So that's very roughly our render pipeline, and it just keeps changing. And what is the copy 0 step? I have no idea. So we have to wait for Flora, and she can probably answer that. That's why I'm saying I don't really know everything about this. Also, like, we have fog planes. That's another step here.
Fog those planes.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna say anything.
Uh-oh. What is it?
By the way, we got Dr. Urinstein saying for us up, I'm not sure if you read it, the radical fish pipeline. How YouTube videos turned me into a JRPG player.
Awesome.
Yeah. Is it about this then, or squinting really hard? Oh yeah, okay. So let me think. Right, so maybe I can talk a bit more about what I want to do today. So the problem is we have essentially the whole technique we are using here is called deferred shading. It's the idea that you render just basic colors first and you ignore lighting, not lightning. And then later you render the light in a separate buffer in the light map here, right? So you have the shadow map and the light map. And then you combine all of these in one path. And it's nice because, like, traditionally in 3D graphics, what you had to do is whenever you render geometry, as you render the geometry, you have to determine how bright each pixel is. So for each pixel that you render for each mesh, you have to go through all the light sources. And that was really only feasible if you had very few light sources. But for deferred shading, you kind of like separate things. You first render the solid colors on each pixel, and then you render the light of each pixel in a separate texture. And the nice thing is those are different paths. That means you can essentially render each light source in one draw call, or like you can make all the light sources in one large draw call and just render them on the screen, and later you combine that with the geometry. It's just much more efficient. And I think probably all modern games use this. I'm not really sure about ray tracing games, but an easy trick to tell if a game uses that is if you look closely when things are fading out. Because when things fade out, they don't just alpha plant away, they actually dither away. You can actually see how you see like things dissolving in individual pixels. I can show that with our enemies here. Or actually, I have a better idea. I can show this for how we actually hide geometry now. Let me just go to the test map. Okay, here we go. So this is actually now how we hide geometry if it's overlapping. Again, this might be actually hard to see in the stream, but we actually don't use any alpha planing here. What we do is we just dither away the geometry. We just say that every other pixel is only rendered, and the more transparent it is, the more pixels we hide. And if you look roughly at it, kind of like looks like transparency, but what really happens is that it's like one pixel has the background and the other pixel has like the foreground. So it's more like interchanging the pixels. And that's because deferred shading only works if there is one thing behind each pixel, as soon as you add more things per pixel, it gets complicated. And that happens if you use alpha planing, because like, think of a window. If you have a window which is not fully transparent, like say bluish, and then you just render a window and behind it is, I don't know, some room, you actually see two things per pixel. You see a little bit of the window and you see a little bit of the background. And that is really tricky. Oh, there's Flora. Hi Flora, at least in the chat. I finally found it. The answer to question, the question about viewers and everything. Oh yeah, so Flora subscribed for 42 months. Congratulations. And thank you. Our biggest fan, Flora.
Oh, that's so nice.
So again, so that's why for deferred shading to work well, you really need to avoid alpha blending. So, but I still want to have alpha blending now, because it's kind of like hard to render something like, I don't know, a nice ghost or slime or like a water blob. All of these things are kind of tricky, and you know, in water we kind of break this rule already. And essentially whenever you render transparency with deferred shading, you need to start cheating, because you cannot accurately render everything. Because like, imagine you render the ground and the window. I should have drawn something for this to explain this properly, but if you now try to shade this correctly, you need to know the light for both the window and the ground behind the window, and that is really hard to do with deferred shading. So what we do for the water, for instance, we say we just ignore, I think, what did we do? I think we said that we just ignore the water and just say only the geometry below the water counts for the light calculation. Or actually we do actually have some property to kind of like limit shadows below water. So we do some weird trickery here, but yeah, in any case, for transparent geometry to work, I need to add another render pass, because right now the solid pass and the solid dynamic pass, those are used to really render the content, and they don't support alpha blending at all. So I will probably add like a solid alpha path, and the solid alpha path is rendered after those things.
Test. Can you hear me?
Hi Flora.
Yeah, hi.
Yes.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Here's the
And
expert.
hi everyone in chat.
The expert of all the stuff I've been talking about for the last hour is here now. I was just giving an overview of the render pipeline and everything. Do you know what the copy zero path is?
The copy zero path.
Yeah. Somebody asked that and I didn't know actually.
I'm not sure in what context.
It's between directional path and water plane. I don't know.
Oh, copy zero. Oh yes, of course. There's a step where, or there can be steps where you copy over just a render buffer from one render buffer to the other, and instead of just rendering it, it's faster to use a copy argument or copy instruction. And it usually, let me think. Usually you should be able to see what is copied, but it could be that the copy zero there is just to initialize the buffers. Could that be? Right.
Yeah.
It uses albedo, position, and depth. I mean, best would be to look in the main
What
pipeline.
happens if I disable it? Oh wow, it's interesting. If I disable it, the water is it's like weird. But it works otherwise. That's interesting. I think that's because it probably uses. Oh man, yeah. Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
render-
the water uses the albedo buffer, but also renders into it, so it needs a copy of it.
Ah, okay.
That's what it does.
So yeah, I'm now actually thinking about how to render transparent things, and I'm just, well, I need to find like the right step where to render things.
I also wanted to answer real quick. Psychiatric said, actually, you know the answer, but do you know the question? And I'm still waiting for the question to be computed. It should be any day now.
The question could just join our
Question.
stream too. We didn't work a lot with the question recently. The question is actually part of our
All
team.
right. I actually do know the question.
Yeah, we do know. We all do know the question, right?
You're right.
He's also called Teku. He's one of our team members.
Yep.
He's in Australia now, so it's hard to reach him.
Yeah. In Australia, drinking flat whites and all that.
Really?
Okay, Ying Z says, wow, this looks really beautiful. Thank you.
The water looks so incredible. Thank you too.
Yeah, the water
That's
is
nice.
always gets all the attention. So,
It still needs work.
yeah,
Oh yeah, definitely. There's still more stuff to do.
not good enough. Never.
Not good enough.
So,
Felix, I hope you saw this one thing that I sent you. Cannot good enough.
cannot good enough.
The one that I sent you in Discord. That's apparently an Arknight's character with the name Cannot Good Enough.
Okay,
And-
great.
It was a great name.
So yeah, for transparent figures and stuff, you probably try similar tricks we use for the water, right?
Yeah, I was actually thinking, so my question is rather, so should I do it before or after the combined path? And I actually thought about this, and I think I would like to do this before the combined path. Because, I mean, it is possible to do things after the combined path. Actually, let me show this really quickly. I think I never showed this because I did this week. But I implemented for the look very closely at the dusk when you run, because I actually managed to kind of like make it planned with the light buffer. So essentially there's now a new property where we can say that effect particles are actually combined with the light buffer, and I think it looks pretty convincing. So if I run here, I actually see that the dust is also brighter, and the best thing to see is just look closely at the shadow. So you can see that the shadow is actually still active. Here you see that the shadow is actually overlapping with the dust particles. So and it looks like they still look like they're in the environment. So I think it looks good enough, and we could do similar things with transparent things, so just combine it with a light shader. But I think it just would be more efficient to do it before the combined path, because then we can just ignore light. We just render it alpha blending over the color, and I actually think we should just ignore the Z coordinates. So essentially we just render it. We do Z testing. Like for instance, if something is below the water, something transparent below the water, you mightn't see it. Actually, that might be a bit of a downside if you do that. If we have transparent things falling into the water, but maybe that's such an edge case, maybe we can avoid that. Because we will not have too many transparent things, and we can just say that transparent things are simply not visible below the water. So there, that's all. Or maybe only partly, I don't know. But the thing is, I actually want transparent things to still drop shadows. And for that to work, we can't just say that we have the directional path here, right? The directional path can just include transparent geometry and just renders it as solid geometry. So there is actually no difference there. So we do have all the transparent things in the shadow map, or only part of them. I mean, we can use the ignore shadow flag, just as we do with the other geometry. So you can actually decide if a transparent object drops a shadow or not. But when you render them, they actually don't change the depth buffer. And because of that, you actually see shadows still behind transparent things, right? If you would change the depth, you wouldn't see shadows behind it, right? Because then suddenly the position of the pixel is in front of where the shadow map says, oh, there is something behind in front of it. So that's why I'm thinking when we render transparent things, we just don't touch the depth buffer. That also means that it may work in any order, because otherwise we may have to sort things. We may still have to do that. It might look weird if you don't do it, but we can try without and see if it's good enough. And in the worst case, we can add an ordering too. Like, it's not a big deal that I just sort all the transparent things in the screen before creating the geometry. So that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Probably
Sounds
after
like a
the
good
water
plan.
plane. That's what I'm thinking. After the water plane or in front of the water plane. I'm actually not sure. And one thing I'm concerned about, can I still use regular depth buffer after the water plane path? Because I remember that later I cannot use normal depth testing. I have to actually sample the depth buffer.
Can you show the depth buffer after the water plane, and we can just see if it writes in it?
There's a depth buffer. I can use the depth buffer here. Yeah, the water plane actually writes in the depth buffer.
Okay.
So should that work fine? I mean, we can just try things.
I would say we try it.
Yeah, I think we just need to try out things, and in the worst case, I have to sample the depth buffer as a test texture. It's not a huge deal. That's why I'm saying, like, this, the all things I'm doing here now. I'm not even sure I will get that far. But at the very least, I talked a lot about how our render pipeline works, so that probably is interesting too. By the way, before I actually continue, there's actually one thing I wanted to show too, because I actually worked on particle effects and I didn't manage to show
stalled until I arrived.
No. I just got into explaining the rendering pipeline.
Holds the line.
that's cool.
Reinforcements are coming.
Yeah, so one big thing I did this week is implementing the thing we call debris particles. So actually I did several things, like let me actually just copy this. This is actually the circle. The first thing I did is actually I implemented particles that drop shadows. It's actually nice to explain this now after I explained the rendering pipeline, because if I disable, there's a new solid property. If I disable the solid property, those are rendered as effect particles, and effect particles ignore shadow mapping, so they don't drop any shadows. They might receive shadows if I use the new where is it? Mull light property. But well, yeah, there's no shadow here. But now when I use the solid property, all I really do is just saying those particles are not rendered as effect particles, but just as regular billboards. The same thing we use to display the character, for instance. And that's it. That's all I did. And the nice thing is, because we use very similar structures here, it was like almost no difference. Scaling and rotation actually both work the same way. The only thing that doesn't work are most of these properties. Like alpha planing actually still works. I just translate alpha planing to the fade property that we already have, right? So you can actually fade them out. But if you look closely, you see that they're actually dithering out, right? Because this is, again, because of the deferred shading. So, but that actually works really nicely. Like I can also scale it up. Actually, I was wondering if I scale those up, is the dithering larger?
They're so small, you actually need to look very closely to see the dithering.
Yeah, I make the dithering really on screen resolution, so it's really not noticeable. That was the idea, at least. But yeah, so that's the one thing I did. So now we have particles that have shadows. And then I implemented debris particles, and debris particles means, well, they don't have a very predeterministic movement, but rather they actually move in the world and they do have collisions with other things. And the interesting thing is, in CrossCode, when I implemented those, I used an entity. Like, actually we did this for all particles in CrossCode. All particles in CrossCode were entities, and entities are actually really complex things in our engine. And that's why we really couldn't show really sophisticated effects in CrossCode. I mean, apparently it was still enough for some pretty heavy stuff, but it's probably part of the reason why CrossCode really doesn't run so great on the Switch, because like we used entities for each particle. And what we do here is they're actually now like a more specialized structure, which is much more simplified. And the funny, like what I did is I just simulated physics movement in a very simplified way, and the code is really, really short. I can show it here. Here, this is let me see. No, was it here? Yeah, update. Yeah, that's it. So here, that's the whole physics, and a lot of it is actually all of this here is just to make a fancy rotation movement. So this is necessarily not even about the physics. It's just here I sample the Z movement, I query just the ground. I mean, right now they don't really collide with the ceiling. I can still add this if this is necessary. And then there's the XY movement collision. And I just borrow some of the functions from the physics, and that's really it. So it's really, really simple, and because of that, we can actually now do stuff like this. So we can have 3,000 particles going out here and colliding in real time. Not with each other, that's something we do not support. So, but well, they do collide with the environment, and 3,000 of them, that still runs really fast. So CrossCode would never have been able to do so many particles, I think. But yeah,
Very
so
cool.
That is something I made this week. Yeah. Okay.
Can you show that in a map with geometry?
I can. Let me I just need to do some scripting. So let's go here. That will be actually interesting. So let's just say I'm at an NPC here. Okay,
And the NPC just explodes.
Yeah. Show effect, fx, spawn fx, that's the name. Okay. Test, and this one here. Wait. Okay, let's see if that works. How do these particles interact with water? I think right now... No, it's moving. Okay. It did not work. Maybe because I didn't use the proper position. Self. Oh my gosh. The effect is actually spawning, but it's spawning somewhere off screen. Oh damn. Okay, let's see. Here we go. So that's what it looks like. Yeah, it's just going below the water. I think that's what you would expect. And the nice thing is it actually works really nice with the water, right? Because it's just regular billboards.
That's true.
Yeah.
Do you have culling for these two already?
What do you mean culling?
Are they are they turned off when they're off screen?
Actually, no, not for effects. For effects, we really don't have this. It's kind of tricky because effects are like really unpredictable in how their bounds are exactly. But
Yeah.
actually, I was thinking of using kind of like you can optionally specify bounds for effects, and you can use those to ignore them when they're out of the screen. But that's mostly only relevant if you have permanent effects that are somewhere in the environment, and in CrossCode we just barely had those. But if we want to have them in Terra, I probably will add some optional bound checks that we can use for that. And then we can use
I know
Culling.
that we struggled with it with Unity. Sometimes you would, with a like really big ambient particle effect, Unity would assume that there are none of its particles on screen anymore, and it would just turn them off because the center, like the emitter, wasn't on screen, but some of the stray particles still were, and it was really difficult to.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
it
That's
right.
why it's challenging to really do ocular culling for particles, because the bounds are very unpredictable. So like what I would do is, first of all, I probably will use this special environment effect spawner entity, and for that entity you can provide a collision box. And that collision box is then given the effect, so the effect knows if this collision box is out of the screen, you can just not render things. And that will probably work, I think. So that would be my approach.
And you can go crazy with ambient particle effects that
Yeah.
are like super pretty, or like around flowers and stuff. You can do so much with particles in the environment.
Actually, that's true. Man, yeah, this NPC doesn't have an animation, as you can see. Okay.
I heard a talk once by Mimi Games tech artist, and he said, VFX artist, and he said like one of the rules that they have for their games to make them look pretty is shit in the air. And
That
that's
is
really
very true. That's very true.
Everything's moving everywhere, and that like makes it look alive and pretty. And since we have this particle effect in every scene that's called CETA, which is just short for shit in the air.
Nice.
See that shit in the air. But it's actually true.
I love
mean,
that.
we did that a lot in CrossCode, and actually that's something we're working on now too. Like we already have rain, obviously, but we actually want to now extend the whole system to support environment particles. We use that a lot in CrossCode too, right? Like most of the areas had something floating around in the air all the time, because it just looks pretty and interesting. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely make use of that too.
Kovac asks, can particle have spawn life so they will despawn one by another?
Sure. Actually, that already works. I can just go here and say that the duration is not just fixed, but it has like 4 to 5 seconds. And now if you look, you see that they just disappear one after the other, so not all at the same time.
Yeah, that it makes seem a bit more dynamic.
Yeah. Like I'm actually I really like how the effect system now developed, because we did a lot of things in CrossCode in a similar way, but it was all chaotic. And what I tried to do with Terra is just make all of these properties more modular, and also like add a lot of options that we were missing in CrossCode. And there's a lot of options, as you can see, but you use all of those in a way or another. So
You need to give me a list of what you think should go together, and then I would go and make a design pass on top of it to give it alignment. You can see there's sharpness and then hue shift, but sharpness and hue shift are not aligned.
yeah, I know. I did this actually at times. I tried to align things, but it's a bit well.
I added some new features for that, for
Oh, really?
aligning things in a setting editor more easily. Yeah.
Oh, is there? I didn't notice. Okay.
Yeah, there's now a focus flex, so you like especially useful for having multiple elements in one line. For instance, you have 2 elements and you want to have something on the right? So for instance, the solid thing the solid thing could be completely to the right, you know, for instance. And you can now do that by saying focus flex is equal to 0, 1 auto.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, I know you can make this more pretty still, but at the very least, for me it's just important to have things compact enough that you can see everything on a full HD screen without scrolling, and that's why everything has to be a bit more narrow. Me, it gets a bit close if you really use all the fade in, fade out options.
Do 180 on the height and see if it's is without scrolling.
Huh?
Do one. Oh yeah. Yeah, like check if.
Okay, let me just change the effect.
If you do the window to 180 height, that's what most. That's what I mean. Like Thomas has 44p too, right? So all three of us. And Hannah is the only one.
I actually always change my screen to full HD before I start streaming. That's how I know.
This is full HD. All right,
this is just full HD. Yeah. I try to make sure that. I try to make sure that editors work in full HD still. I actually
I do that too every time. Every time I make an editor, I like.
I just modified. What happened here before, by the way, was I was just modifying things, and whenever I modify things here, the effect keeps spawning, and I just kept spawning 3,000 particles, and that was actually getting a bit slow.
You now have like at least 10,000 cached objects.
Yeah.
Easily in your memory. What's your task manager saying right now?
Oh boy.
Oh, Dennis has a little question in our audio channel. Maybe you can answer it real quick.
In the audio channel.
Which audio channel?
Ours, our internal.
Oh, that one. Yeah, okay.
Have you at least shown the field plane?
Oh no, I actually didn't. Okay, let me show the field plane now. Which map is it?
Made one called Poisson.
Oh yeah, here we go. So that's something that Stefan worked on. It's a tool to spawn props, like a lot of smaller props, like grass here. And actually didn't work much with it, so I have to edit mask.
You can edit the mask for like defining where stuff shouldn't be placed.
Yeah, so here I just say that no.
And the fill now works too. You can now fill actually.
Ah, nice. Okay,
I found
submit.
the issue with it.
And then you can specify points here on where to start.
Sprayed the upvotes everywhere.
Juno
sprayed the upvotes everywhere. I mean, it could also be downvotes. It could
That's
also
true.
be downvotes. So.
It depends on the orientation, yeah. Yeah, so that's something that Stefan worked on, just to simplify setting all those grass props, because now the nice thing is those are just entities that you cannot modify, so they're not in the way if you modify the more important entities. Unlike, for instance, in that other map here, all of those grass are entities.
And how many entities do you have there?
There was some.
It
here.
should say in the
1,160. So
go back to the Poisson and check in the top right
80.
in the plane. No, in the plane.
In the plane.
How many? Yeah.
Almost 1,000. And that's not the same area. Those actually a lot more dense, really.
Yeah, that's pretty dense. Yeah, in the mask you could use the grayscale values to make it less dense.
Yeah. The grayscale values, density, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the max tries regulates how often spawning is tried for each possible point. It's complex to explain, so I don't want to.
Yeah.
That would a nice. There isn't a lot of information about this, even though it's one of the major things you need for procedural generation. I feel like. might be making a tech block for this one. Because it's
I
like,
read it in chat just so people know how it's written.
RD, are they rendered only when on camera? Oh, there's currently a bug with that. Felix and I have to like look into this. We didn't have time this week. If you scroll a little bit off, you can actually see it how it like. If you're far enough away from the plane, from the entity, then yes, it goes away. It's per chunk, the idea. But currently the entity is very small, right? And so when it's out of the frustum, everything in it doesn't get rendered. There seems to be a bug with how it calculates the boundaries.
Yeah, I think that the problem is really that bounds probably don't work well if you have multiple figures. You want to be able to just override the bounds, because there's no point in calculating it based on all the entities, and that's something that's missing right now.
We need to check if we like want to add a optional bounds property to the view.
That's probably what I will do. I think each view will have like a vector, bounds vector that is null by default, and you can set a vector to it, and then it will just use those bounds, or like a box probably. You probably want a box 2 or something. We'll see. But yeah, so that's that is something that Stefan working on, and I'm sure it will make a lot of things easier in the future.
I also finished modifiers and gems.
Yay.
Nice. Okay, so we showed a lot of stuff, and now I will just close this and try to think of how to do transparent geometry. So
work, or else no payment for you, no bread on the table.
Okay. So the first thing I will do actually is probably write the shaders, and the thing is you don't need to modify the shaders a lot. Maybe let's just focus on billboards for now. Let's just try to get transparent billboards to work.
By the way, WebStorm sucks for shaders.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it's like, apparently nobody uses WebStorm for shaders. I think what we'll have to do is just use one of those offline material shaders where you can write a shader and see a preview directly. There are some online variants. Like, what was that? Froggraph? No. Shader Frog, right? That was kinda okay-ish, but we also use some weird values for stuff.
Actually, I'm thinking we may be able to just use the same shader with a property, but I'm not sure. Let me think for a moment. Okay, albedo is written the same, only that this time we support alpha playing. So I mean, this is still valid, but somewhere I do stuff where the way I calculate the color needs to be done differently.
Is every location a texture sample? A texture sampler?
Yes.
All right.
I mean, it's a texture where you render stuff in. But the thing is, actually, we don't need to render positions, and also not normals, I think. Do we render?
You can
The normal mesh should not. If we say that we don't really change the depth, right? That means we don't change the normal, because the normal is relevant for shadows, right? And we don't really change the position. Like, the position is still valid for the thing behind the transparent thing.
Yep.
So
but you can do that outside of the shader. You can say only render into albedo.
Okay, so I can just use the same shader and just say don't render into normal mesh and normal text.
Yeah,
but
you would make a new render step for it, right? And there you can say what buffers are written into.
Okay, so essentially what I need to do is say we have a uniform, which are the uniform bools. Yes, there's. I see one up there.
Casey Muratori had an
Support
explanation
alpha.
about this one.
So that,
And
that's
Nomad Pixel, if you can, put a link into that. I would be interested in that. Sorry, Felix, go ahead.
Okay, so we have support alpha, and I think I probably just need to modify like something about the sample text thing, because I think it does something where if alpha is slower than 1, then we just sample. Yeah, that's the one. Okay, I just add a bool property here. Oh, actually, I just
Cool track.
query the property here, and not use support alpha. I think this is again the Electric Chester, isn't it?
What?
I think
The,
so,
the
yeah.
music track.
Oh,
NP.
Yeah, Spark the Electric
Yeah, yeah.
Chester, which has a really good
Nice.
soundtrack.
Yep.
If
Sounds a little bit like Sonic, but
yeah,
It's
the
very
game
Sonic
is
too.
yeah, it's very Sonic as the game.
nice. Especially that slap bass.
We got a subscription by Darker Fishy. Oh, more shader code, I see. Had some good fun trying to set up a canny edge detection shader at work a while ago. Anyways, keep cool developments up. Treeslayer.
Thank you.
Nice,
actually,
thank
something
you.
we could do for a nice effect. Detect the edge and then make it a pixel white or something like this. It would look cool for, let's say, you have a circle or like a sphere, right? And then you can like do a sphere effect on that mesh. But it would take, I think, another. Well, no, you could make it as an instance hint and then just in the shader calculate it different. We do support spheres, right? We can, in theory, like push in a mesh that's a sphere,
Sorry?
effectively.
What do you mean?
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
for what use? Like what's the
Basically,
use for?
just to like we the same as with lights, right? Where you have the diffuse part and the over the plane part, and imagine the same, and you just use the where it clips, where the depth like clips as your threshold to detect the edges, right? And you draw a circle on the ground and a globe, a half globe, and
A dome.
a dome, right? And you could use a separate shader for that kind of implements those pixels. Leads to a nice kind of like outlined bubble effect.
So you mean something like a Winston bubble, but as an outline.
Right. Yeah, you could even show some effects in there, right? Like apply some Voronoi pattern as lines. And bam, you have yourself a nice bubble with some very faint pattern on it.
I just add the support alpha property to sample text GLSR, right? Because, or is that not a good idea?
Say again? Sorry, I didn't.
I
pay
just
attention.
add the use support alpha to the sample text GLSL because whenever you import that one, you might need this.
Yeah, you can do that.
Actually, you also use the sample text simple, and if you use that one, you don't need this. I will put it into. Yeah.
I really hate how you can't see that there's a floor in there or a clamp, which are like functions provided by GLSL, right? It would be so cool if those would be color highlighted too.
Yeah. I agree.
And it's not that hard. Like I found one tool that would highlight the entire line, which isn't very useful.
Wow, great.
Okay, we got a few subscriptions, just seeing. One by Barkerfish is saying, oh, more shader code I see. Had some
said
good
already.
fun. Oh, you said it. Damn it, I missed it. And we
You
got
even
one
said
by
thanks to
iRobin
it.
591 who subscribed for 42 months saying they are smart. Thank you.
Wow, 42 months as well.
Yeah,
lot.
another one with the answer. So,
Nice.
But where's the question? Right.
I was just thinking, I think
hmm.
about RD. I think you said should be possible. Maybe I would rather use like not a perfect circle, but rather something.
You don't
what's
need a
it called?
circle. Sorry, you can just use a box. Right, you can calculate the distance from a sphere in that box. anyway.
Oh, you mean you calculated in the fragment shader?
Yes, you don't need a actual mesh here. Sorry. If it's just uniform, then yeah, that shouldn't be. Even if it's like stretched to the sides, shouldn't be needed.
Yeah, that should be possible. I think the hardest things will be making the pixels align, but in the fragment shader that should be possible.
Okay.
Might also be an idea for puddles, right?
Puddles.
Yeah, maybe you want puddles of water sometimes. And when you have puddles, those have usually a very strong edge, right, of 1 pixel. If I could remember the example where I saw that.
I think for puddles, just decals
Oh yeah,
would be a bit easier.
probably, yeah. Then you can just bake them in.
Oh well.
Hydration check.
Hydration check, everyone.
Good call.
Hydration.
Pro tip. Get yourself a water bottle with like a little nip in the front, so it's almost like you have a straw. Because then you like drag more water, you know. Because you
should.
drink faster through a straw.
I mean, you could also have like one of those hamster bottle thingies that you
Hanging into the window. Like
yeah,
always nice.
and then just just basically press your tongue against the little ball and the water flows out.
I'm a tri-hydrate. You know, hydrate. Tri-trader.
Okay, let's see if I can find him.
Our artist has this thing around his water bottle that chimes when it's not been moved in a while to remind him to drink again.
I would just
Nice.
move it. I mean.
Yeah.
Okay,
I have a problem with authority, right? So I would just move it.
I could actually
I would kick it to the floor.
I could actually talk about something real quick, but I think Felix is very busy.
you can talk about stuff, and I will just.
I'm going to start with a question. What do you use for your alarm clock?
My
Nothing. I
smartphone.
just wake up.
Really?
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah,
Nice.
I don't have an alarm clock. I wake up at 7 every day.
I mean,
Wow.
I also manage to do that whenever I know that I have to get up for something. But the thing is, my subconscious is very good at deciding to not wake up unless it's really
I know
important.
that. Yes, I have experienced this.
Yeah. It's like whenever I actually have some sort of like goddammit, what is it? Some sort of meeting that I have to go to, or some other like appointment, then I always wake up even before my alarm clock rings because it's like, oh yeah, I know I have to get up. But yeah, anyway, I actually tweaked my. I use my phone alarm clock app for waking up, and I actually tweaked it recently. I'm not sure if you have experience with those, but you can put some options in there that, for example, you have to solve some math,
Really?
some math to get like the ringing to stop and stuff like that.
I
Which-
hate those.
I mean, it's optional, but I like it because it keeps my brain fresh, and it's also something that you can't really easily get around when you just want to sleep again. And then recently I also started using some kind of option that basically lets it ring again, or rather after like 20 minutes it displays a message. It asks you, hey, are you still awake? And if you don't answer in like a minute or so, it just rings again, which is really good at actually forcing me to not fall asleep again. But it's a bit flawed. Imagine it rings and then you get up, but you leave your phone at the bed or do something else, and then it asks you again in like 5 minutes, hey, are you awake? And you are awake, but the phone is somewhere else, and then you have to run to your phone, and then and the problem is I still haven't found out how to properly basically tell him, yes, I'm awake now, leave me alone, because you go into this weird circle that you it basically starts ringing again because you couldn't answer it quick enough. Then you do the math thing again, deactivate it, okay, and then you have to pay attention that you basically time yourself right, that you can answer the yes, I'm awake now, shut up. Otherwise, you're always in the cycle that it rings again after a few minutes, and you basically can't stop it without deactivating the alarm clock or something. It's like really stupid, and then I need to find a way to tell him, yeah, do it like 3 times and then stop, please. Yeah. Anyway, that's my experience recently. It helped me to fix my sleep rhythm, and I have to say I feel way more energetic because of that. But it's still annoying because it stresses me out, and I sometimes feel like, please stop. I want to do things. I don't want to pay attention to my alarm clock app.
I don't know if this is for you, man. Sounds like it's not really working the way it should.
Yeah, maybe. But it also distracts me. I mean, it doesn't really help if I'm energetic, but it also still distracts me from stuff.
I'm just imagining you trying to go to bed in the evening and it's been ringing all day and you can't sleep because it keeps asking if you're awake from the day before.
Oh god, that would be amazing.
You just have to go to bed earlier.
That's also a trick, yeah.
I mean, I do. I mean, I kind of have to because I get sleepy more early. So that's working out and all. Oh, we have a subscription by Vandun, who might also be known as Zolf.
See, I hate the idea of something waking me up forcefully.
If I didn't do that, I just sleep till 2 p.m. So.
Oh, I don't know. Like I go to bed at 10 and then I wake up 7 a.m. Sometimes 6 a.m. and then I'm like, all right, let's fucking go.
But then you miss all the interesting things that happen after 10 p.m.
Nothing interesting happens after 10 p.m. Nothing I cannot do the next day. All right.
Well, for me,
and if we all die until then I don't care because I'm dead. You know.
That's
well. For me, when I want to, for example, play something with Mgenyu here, it only ever happens at 11 p.m.
Yeah, we like start at that time.
Yep.
Yeah, I wouldn't even start at that. Just fires your brain into overdrive. No wonder you can't sleep.
Well, I can sleep perfectly fine. It's just 8 hours a day, and it starts at like 2 or 3, right? So I don't know.
That's why I go in bed to 10, so I can wake up with the sun and be like, "Let's fucking go, dude!"
What do you do when you have an appointment at like 8 or 9 a.m. yet?
I don't have those. Everybody who knows me knows not to call me before 11, and anybody who wants to see me can do so after 11.
Like the government also knows that, and it's like
the government, no, everybody knows.
I like Rose. Are you still awake with the corrupted font?
But I also wanted to say my alarm clock is just a very gentle, quiet jazz song.
It doesn't work for me. I can't.
And I only need to hear the first 2 seconds and I wake up.
Flora, guess what? We have a new figure render style.
Oh, nice.
Because 3
Cool.
wasn't enough. Now we have 4. It's normal, alpha, light, and shadow. It's good we made those distinction, right? So, oh boy.
Cool. But yeah, I tried those puzzle solving things, and they don't work for me because when I wake up, I can't see anything for like a minute. Just I can't sharpen my eyes. I can't focus with my eyes for like a minute or so, and I can look on the screen and I don't see anything. I can't solve the puzzle, and it just annoys me.
Shit.
There are also alternative options like
I liked a bit of Bailey's option where you have to scan a QR code, but the QR code is in your bathroom.
It's
turn
similar
off.
to
To lay in
that
my
alarm
bed,
clock
yeah.
that runs away.
Oh god.
You know that one? It's like a driving alarm clock with wheels, and the moment it starts going off, it just speeds away, and you have to catch it.
All these options.
Yeah, that wouldn't work for me as well because there's no space on my floor.
Oh well.
I mean, there is like this option that you have to, quote unquote, take X numbers of steps, but instead of like walking around, you could also just do jerking motions. So it's
Yeah.
that also counts as steps. So it's not, which is actually also what I did to do that.
Ah, yeah.
No.
And it did a jerking motion. There you
I
go.
mean, it's-
you just said that. Did I quote wrong, chat? No, right?
yeah, I did jerking motions, which is a really good thing to do in the morning, I guess. But I did it with my phone. So, hey, you continue.
TMI, god damn it. Hannah.
I said
always
motions.
with the naughty
And
shit.
it's with the phone. It's all clear, clean.
Oh,
Nothing-
I don't want to know what you do and where you do it and how you do it. Alright? Ew.
We at Radical Fish Games are very family friendly.
Hey, by the way, quick off topic, but did you guys ever address the? Did you ever talk CrossCode and Steam Deck?
No, I actually didn't.
Not yet.
But I can talk about this now, I guess. So
Yeah.
it's actually thanks to Julian because he managed to get a Steam Deck, and we got some feedback from people here and there, like a few people writing us that CrossCode actually didn't run great on the Steam Deck. It actually wasn't playable because the controls were broken, and I confirmed that thanks to Julian's Steam Deck. So I actually we also got an email of somebody telling us updating .webkit fixes the issue, and it actually does. So that's something I did this week very secretly, updating CrossCode. So the Linux version actually now uses a new .webkit version, and it should actually solve some annoying controller issues on Linux in general, but in particular it also now should run fine on the Steam Deck. So the controls
Thanks.
should be working. And
I think-
performance-wise, it seems to run fine.
Yeah, it's super well. Like I think it's all perfect. I think the only reason Steam might deny you the verified rating at the moment is because you don't display Steam controller icons.
Yeah,
But other than that, it's perfect. I think.
that's nice. So you see that switch? Wasn't so hard, right? To get an HTML5 game run on mobile hardware. But I guess
Easy
the-
peasy.
I mean, the difference between just having a small PC and Nintendo hardware, which is basically the hardware that ends up being brought for sheep, you know? That's what
Yeah.
Nintendo does. They buy up all the sheep hardware, put it together into a console, and sell it for $400.
Yeah,
Well-
it's incredible. Like our game, we had to do a lot of extra optimization to port it to Switch, and on Steam Deck it just runs on max settings out of the box. It's
Yeah.
so much more powerful than the Switch.
Welcome to the experience of Nintendo consoles.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever played Hyrule Warriors, the newest one? Holy fuck. I have never played a game that was such a slideshow.
That bad?
And yeah, I mean, you have to imagine this is a game that came out around the same time as Persona 5 Strikers, and this game was just perfection, you know. Same team, but Nintendo was like, no, this is fine. We can ship this for $60.
I wonder how
Actually,
that works
like,
because
people-
they have some requirements for you to you greenlight yourself on like is for example the loading times and all that jazz.
I mean, like Hyrule Warriors was probably made as a contract work with Koei, right?
Maybe.
They released the first one, which also is a great game, if it wouldn't run so shitty. And then Hyrule Warriors is like, damn. For some reason, like they did this thing what is very popular with Japanese developers currently, which is this depth of field effect, you know? And then you have Z-targeting, and every time you Z-target, they implement depth of field very heavily on a console that is definitely not powerful enough for that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say post-processing was something we cut down on when we developed the for Switch, because like we cut out a lot of the post-processing and it made a big difference in the performance. Well,
but yeah, it's
CrossCode
like
runs super
I would super like it to play some Switch games, but I don't want to deal with these frame rates.
I mean,
I
Kirby's new game was pretty nice. I mean,
it is still 30 FPS.
what?
Yes.
Well, it's not like I noticed. I mean, it's not like
Well,
the game really
but
requires
I
you to
would.
have very strong
Right,
reflexes.
Yeah.
I was actually like a little bit sad about that because I thought like, all right, this like they made Odyssey, right? And Odyssey was 60 FPS. So I was like, oh, probably Kirby Forgotten Land is 60 FPS too, but sad times.
Well, Switch just has really bad hardware.
I just want to find that clip. Oh, I found it. Like, I would. This is tough.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. Oh wow. Hold on.
Like the game chucks hard at the end there, especially.
Holy.
That's just sad because like I actually like the Hyrule, like the warrior kind of games. I actually like some of them. Like the Pirate Warrior series is pretty great, especially since they changed directors. The Persona 5 Strikers was amazing. This game also plays very differently. I think after Persona 5 Strikers, it's hard to go back to these games.
Figure gift.
The thing is, this looks consistent. I actually don't have a problem with that. Link's Awakening would still have performance to this. Link's Awakening, was that with the little figures, like the mini, what looked like a...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Link's Awakening was like a 3D reimagining, like a isometric cutesy style.
That one had streaming issues, right? Like I remember sometimes the frame rate would just dip for a second.
I don't know. I saw my wishlist still.
The PC version runs fine, Crazy Face. I have the PC version of Age of Calamity. I mean, I have the game, I just dumped it on my PC, right? I have one of those first Nintendo Switches. So yeah. That's why I'm never online on the Switch anymore. I bricked my Switch, so now I'm afraid of going online with it.
Oh no.
Okay.
Hmm.
But I really, really, really wanted to play Smash on PC.
Oh, that's possible?
Yeah, with the Yuzu emulator, Game Rocks. Like you need a chunky hardware, but
Map Shadow.
just buy a second. Yeah, just buy a second. But right now I don't want to spend any money.
Just fix this up.
That's like big money spending for me. Like I want to spend so much money for something I rarely use.
Is
Also, first on my list is a TV because my TV is only. I can only start it with my PlayStation 5, which is the
What?
best thing. That's how I start my my TV. I have to start the PlayStation 5, then turn it off, then it switches to the other HDMI signal, and then I can plug my PC right for gaming. And when I want to turn it off, I switch the PlayStation 5 back on. Disconnect the HDMI cable, and then when I turn it off, the PlayStation 5, it turns off the TV too.
Okay. Okay.
Did you like lose the remote
Wow.
or?
The remote exploded in my hand.
Oh, okay.
Wait. Wait.
Pretty sure you can also download an app for your smartphone and use it as
Probably.
a remote mode.
But to be honest, I can't even go to the home menu anymore. Like the only thing that works is the HDMI input wake up call. The TV has, I think, not. It hasn't been kind of treatly to because I moved 2 times with it. I think somewhere in there.
By the way, Flora. Now,
Yes.
if I want to use the billboard shader, it already uses the solid shader by default, right? I mean, it only specifies the billboard shader here. Can I just say that I use it for the same shader for both default group and also now the alpha group? Because I think it's essentially the same shader. The only thing I change is a uniform property.
Yeah, it's just when there's only vert, that means that the frag has the same name. So if the fragment shader has a different name, you use both.
But the billboard shader should use the solid shader, right? So there is no billboard fragment shader.
You're right.
I think I was already confused about this before. Maybe you did actually add an exception for that. Somehow. Maybe if there's no such shader, it uses the solid shader? Oh well, in any case, the the right shader is created. But essentially here I assign like the groups that use this shader, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I guess the billboard alpha shader uses the same one. Okay, let me just see if I actually see something.
Okay.
Or if I see anything, because I just added a new render step. So
Okay.
Fingers crossed that we will still see something, because that usually the first thing that happens when we add a new render step is like nothing is visible suddenly.
Pray to.
And
Culling God.
obviously things will crash. So map alpha
Pray to
does
the
not
render god.
exist. Why does map alpha not exist? Oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, probably because I never used it anywhere here. Map alpha.
What about those
Oh, we see
universal
something.
remotes?
Oh yeah, okay, let's see.
Nice.
So what if I now say that this is not normal, but alpha? The same, okay, the game crashes?
There has to
crashes.
be a physical button on the TV now. There might be. There. I level with you. I haven't checked. I just assumed this is a modern TV. Probably not. You know.
Okay.
You just accepted your struggles.
It's not like it made me use the TV less. I gotta say, like I'm sitting in front of my PC because it's always like a bit of work to set it up. And also, it also has this weird thing where if it's connected via HDMI, sometimes the TV will just go to black and go back to the screen and show me with a big bar which resolution it currently has, which is definitely like, thanks TV. I really want that information for 20 seconds on my screen so I can see no gameplay. Yo, fuck Sony's TVs. Never again.
So.
Universal remotes. Yeah, I thought about that, but then I thought like I could also save up for a TV right before and that one comes with a remote, so I don't want to pay extra. But it's okay. Less TV is good. More PC time.
Okay, I'm getting
Mine
there.
actually has increased my productivity because I have worked like 8+ hours every day
Oh
the
damn.
last 2 weeks. Was some good 2 weeks for me.
Okay.
Gotta chill a bit so I have time for the cross week. I have, like motivation.
Alright, so nothing can be seen, but at least it doesn't crash. So that's
I mean it's black.
yeah.
Oh no, it's nothing. Alright, yeah.
Yeah. So
Took a
why
while.
is there nothing?
Buying a dodgy
If
universal
you
remote
have
might
any
help.
questions or something, let me know.
Yeah, just try. That's always now the hard thing. So what does it mean if nothing is visible?
Yep.
Oh, actually here.
question-
I think I know why. Because I never added the mesh anywhere. So let's actually fix this.
I think you forgot to sacrifice the goat at full moon.
That's
It's what I think our shader artist does anytime he does anything.
that's yeah. That might be true, actually. This collection. Oh no, not here. Okay. So we have the normal collection. Oh yes, and the alpha collection is actually also added to the shadow. The shadow.
The shadow.
The shadow.
Okay. I had
Oh
no
my
mi-
god, you guys know the gamers? Incredible.
Of course, of course.
You're old enough for this. Okay.
I seduced the priestess. Okay, that was the second one, but still.
Okay.
You seem trustworthy. Would you mind to join us on our novel quest?
That was one of my favorite parts. I always had the opposite problem with my characters. Like, people wouldn't trust each other and be like, "No, I'm not gonna go with that guy. Why would I?"
Well, I mean, it depends on how much the players are into just progressing as the power gamers that they are, which they were in the
Yeah.
gamers.
Yeah, true.
Ah, man, I'm kind of annoyed with the structure we're having because, like, for every time we do a collection, we are creating so many measures and, like, 95 of them will probably be empty. But it's probably not a performance concern because we just go through them and we just say, okay, it's empty, just skip. And it's probably nothing. But
It's
just
it's nothing. Yeah.
it's probably just but it feels like it itches me, like it's so messy.
I mean, with some TypeScript magic, you could generalize that, but then you would create
Yeah, look,
bit of
that
a
would
brain
just
fart
be
for-
hiding. That would just be hiding the dirt, not resolving it.
the dirt.
We got the first time chat viewer just seeing this. Hello, absolutely love CrossCode and looking forward to any next work. What's being shared on Twitter looks amazing too. Thank you. Okay, did we miss anything else? There was like another question a long time ago that I wanted to answer, but I didn't want to interrupt any conversation. Is it annoying that people ask you about CrossCode while you are trying to do new things, or it makes you proud because people like your game and talk about it? Well, it's like a little bit mixed thing. Like, I mean, we are very happy that people like CrossCode and they would like to have more of those characters in the story. But on the other hand, we just really want to focus on our new thing right now. And well, I mean, it's as long as people are not angry at us for working on something new, it's okay. Like,
I think ever since CrossCode did come out on the Switch, you're not as annoyed by people's questions anymore, right?
Oh, that one, that question.
What question? Oh yeah, Switch. Yeah.
Yes. Ever since the Switch when questions stopped, it's probably okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everyone knows
when will Professor Ball finally be finished.
Yeah.
This question always makes me angry. Very, very angry. No.
Professor Ball Switch when?
No, please. Not both. Okay. So I did add a few more things, which might explain why it doesn't work. Let's see. Oh. Okay, and yes, I see something. It's rendered incorrectly, but I see something. So
Nice.
now I just need to figure out why the alpha planning isn't working correctly.
So can you quickly explain what you did? Because I don't know if I'm the only. Yeah,
I mean, it's really hard to explain, but essentially, I just created a new mesh for transparent graphics, and I somehow specified this in our render pipeline. I added this new. Actually, let me check this if that is actually happening. I added a new step here, which is called solid alpha. Here it is. So if I disable that, you see it actually works. Like, this now is rendered with the new solid alpha step. Here, for instance, if I disable it, this is still visible, but this one isn't. So that's because I'm using this new style here. We already have this for light, we have this for shadow, and now we have a new alpha mode, which essentially supports transparent pixels. If I set this to normal and then I disable this, it's still visible. So now this is rendered in solid dynamic, right? So yeah, that was essentially just a lot of configuring our render pipeline so that well, the thing is rendered with a separate mesh, and now it's all about configuring this render step in a way that the right thing happens. Because right now what happens is, well, you don't see any proper alpha blending here, right? So it's all black. So we need to figure out how can we fix this. Oh, it actually has albedo paint over true. What is this, Flora?
Albedo paint over true means you basically copy the albedo buffer once,
Mm. Then you draw it over it.
and
Okay.
then you draw over it.
Yeah, but here we don't have to do this because we actually don't sample the albedo buffer. I mean, I already enabled use blending, but maybe that's not enough. What did you do for the decal step? You use write def is that's what I do. Write def false, use blending, blend alpha separate. I just copy all of this and let's see if that helps. Because essentially we'll be doing what we will do in the decal pretty much actually. We also will not write the def and we'll use blending, blend alpha separate. Let's see if that works, if that helps. Will Project Terra come to the VU as well? Only if we do crowdfunding and we have the stretch goal again. Guys! Oh, wow! Look at this! It's red! It's transparent too! Look at this, it actually is transparent. Only slightly though.
It's like you're surprised.
Okay, we're done. Stream is over. Okay, goodbye everyone.
Good night, people.
Okay, no. I actually would like to know. It seems like it's
Very slightly transparent.
I just found a very fitting meme to our
I know
hydration.
why. I think it's probably because we are using this G1 and 1 minus. So yeah, I actually have to multiply this.
Yeah.
Or I use blending source 1. Nee, blending source source alpha. But now the problem is it tends to do the same with the alpha channel. So I actually would have to use blend alpha separate, and I actually do that. So that should work. Let's see. This might be enough because for this path we don't really have lighter. I don't think we need this. If we want to support lighter, we actually have to add a new property to the mesh, and I want to avoid that. Because then we have to recreate like a new customizer. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, look at this. We got alpha. Way.
Stream is still behind.
Okay. It actually looks pretty good even if overlapping. Look at this. Magic.
Nice. But
Yo,
what about the shadow?
Yeah, okay. What about the
Shadow?
shadow? The shadow. Okay, let's see. Yeah, shadow works. Here we go. Shadow. Oh, they also receive shadows. Wait, is that correct? Would they receive shadows?
I
Okay.
think so, right?
No, I mean, the thing is, they should not write the def, though. That's why they should not receive shadows. So that is still... I said write def is false, but it seems like they still do write the def. Could that happen?
I think you also need to take out the position.
Ah, yeah, how can I
The
just
output.
remove it here?
I think you can.
Okay, let me just remove, and while I'm at it, I'm also going to remove those two. Let's see if that still works. Right, we're actually using the position buffer for like calculation. Okay, so let's see. Shadow. Ha 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 ha. Shadow tolerance disable. Okay, it works. Nice.
Nice.
This is actually
awesome.
this is funny. The shadow tolerance. Yeah. You should disable that, or maybe I will just make it disabled in general if you use alpha planning. So no, actually this already works perfectly fine. I don't even use this support alpha thing, but I think it's because of details like this, right? Shadow tolerance should never be enabled if you have alpha, because those things don't receive shadows.
We could actually, that's something I wanted to do for the setting editors for something like this. We already have the provide context thing, right? You could also include provide context and then auto fetch value. Then in that case you could disable shadow tolerance automatically whenever alpha is selected as style.
Can you say this again? Sorry, I was thinking about stuff, Stefan.
The setting editor currently, when it provides the context for something, right? In this case, you would need to check, is the style alpha, then disable shadow tolerance, for instance, right?
Oh, this
Don't make it clickable in the editor.
Oh, yeah.
I noticed that our provide context currently doesn't automatically return a value, but it could. And it would be perfect for stuff like this. Yeah, when you provide a context, you still have to write your own editor for it that then returns the context. And a setting editor could automatically do that.
Okay.
Just return if a provide context key is asked for and that key is equal to the key of the child, then return that value, and then you only need to update the setting editor, the parent, and say, all right, disable my shadow tolerance.
Okay, we should make this an option at least, because this might break things, but otherwise that's actually a good idea. Yeah, that sounds good actually. I can't believe this is already.
I might work on this.
This is already perfect, like not perfect. The thing is, okay, this is now like the compromise, right? If you draw the shadow here, obviously it shouldn't be as dark here, realistically, right? Especially if this would be more like less transparent, you would notice like there's a full shadow here, even though you rendered stuff in front of it. And that's kind of like the downside of doing it this way. If you want to fix this, we would have to do this after the combined phase. Then we could control this better. But I think it's not a big problem because of a few reasons. Actually, that's another thing I can show you. I didn't really show. There's more stuff I can show here. I did change a little bit the rendering, the lighting for main characters. So originally, let me just change this for a moment. The combine shader. Originally, actors were rendered like this. When you are like in the dark, they're pretty dark. And while this is realistic, I think it's like the result is very often that you don't really see things like enemies or even yourself. So I thought I wanted to make actors a little bit brighter. So that's why you now got the actor brightness. And essentially, actors have a minimum brightness, and like the actual brightness is kind of like interpolated between 0.3 and 1 instead of 0 and 1. And that way you can actually see important actors much easier. So you can actually always see the player that way.
Oh, that's smart. Cool.
Have you tried also like putting a light below Juno when she's in caves?
I mean,
I know a lot of games do that.
You could do this, but this is like much more intrusive, right? So then you have like a lot of lights going around, and you can do this for Juno, but the problem is you have the same situation for enemies. I actually noticed this, especially in Hannah's cave here. When you're like in this part here. And the thing is, you often want to have those strong dynamics in the lightning because it just looks better if things are getting really dark at the edge. But then you have enemies down there, and let me just turn on it again. So essentially,
Sorry.
enemies just end up really hard to see when they're down there because of the lightning. So, like here for this one, for instance, if you would not have like the energy bar, you would have a hard time seeing it, right? And that's why I thought it's probably it just makes the playability better, having like a minimum. Whoops on that. A minimum brightness, and that's why I think this whole alpha thing will actually work out fine in practice, because most of the time those alpha things will be dynamic things, and very often we will render them as actors. So even if there is a shadow behind them, the shadow will be less emphasized because the pixel is marked as an actor, so the shadow is less emphasized. So that's why I think it will work out. But anyway, we have to see how it works out in practice, and we can still change the render pipeline if necessary. But
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice thing.
I mean, doing it here essentially just makes it more efficient, because then we don't have to sample the light layer a second time and all that. Yeah, but now we finally can have water blobs. Great.
Nice. Awesome.
That was a lot quicker than I expected, honestly.
I should come as a guest more often, huh?
Yeah, seems to help. Actually, something I can do is try to get this use alpha planning property. So all I have to do really is add a setup call here to set it to true, right? In material call probably, right? Because, or maybe it's enough if I do it in the init. What's the difference between init and material, Flora?
Init is only used once at the beginning, and material is basically used every frame.
So every frame before a certain shader is called, right? Okay. So because now you have the solid setup, I would just add I was actually thinking I could just, because I just say alpha here. Oh no, let's make it like this. Const export. Alpha setup is render setup. Oh no, this doesn't work, damn it. Okay. Let's just call this on alpha off. And then it's just you support alpha set false. And alpha on, that does it on, and that's it. Okay, here we make alpha on, alpha on, not off. Maybe I call this one alpha on setup. Alpha on is a little bit too general. But the funny thing about materials is that, for instance, if I now say the alpha on setup is only done in here in the solid step, in the first one, the alpha off setup, I think this will just stay that way up until I hit like the alpha step, and then I just use the alpha on setup again, right? I don't have to use this again in the decal or in the solid dynamic, I think. If I remember correctly. Oh, we will see. So actually, I will now test this and I'll just do some stuff where I just output, I don't know, pink, if it's true, and then I see if it works. Okay, this is non-existent. Texture, TS, no, solid. Use support alpha. Did I write it correctly? Yes, I did. Okay. I'll just make it in the sample text itself. So like here. Okay, is wake 3, maximum red, 0 green, maximum blue.
Oh. Alright, chat. Time for me to go to bed.
Or
Okay.
Alrighty.
Have a good night.
Good night.
You too, everyone.
Good
Bye
night.
bye.
Bye-bye.
okay, let's see. Alright, that looks very pink to me. I think it works. And the tree's not pink, so that works too. Yeah, so I just tested if you support alpha. So now about the shadow tolerance thing. Where do I actually do this? I think I do that in here in the fragment shader, right? Actually, all I do in the fragment shader is just forward the flag setting. I think it's actually easier to do this in the figure construction. I'm just saying that if it's alpha, so tolerate shadow tolerance and render style is like this only makes sense if the render style is normal. Otherwise, shadow tolerance is not really applicable anyway. Right? I think so. Okay, that's much easier. So, I mean, like, we might not even need this. Is it C++? No, that's not C++. It's actually TypeScript and WebGL. That's why we are writing GLSL. So... okay, let's see if I now enable the shadow tolerance thing.
I will be right back in a few minutes.
Doesn't do anything, okay.
See you
Oh
later.
no, Henna's playing weird stuff again. Okay. I can actually check if that same works for geometry, for meshes. That would be interesting. So,
I don't like conservatively, just a little. Game pressure, consistency. 2 to 4, 2 to 5, 2 to the cut. Today is make or break. Can you make the cut? I've got a great eagle on hole number 9. Think you can get it inside mine? Try your best at that. And study my shot. I've got to catch my rivals a lot quicker than I thought. Great, I can get my second shot on the green from here. The real battle starts now at Pebble Beach. Nice par. Let's hope you win next time.
Okay.
I'm just gonna ask what's going on with the music.
That's always happening when Henner is leaving. He's always doing weird tracks and then he just leaves. That's like a tradition here. Is that the good one? Yeah, it's a good one.
That's a trippy edit.
Yeah. Yes.
It's kind of frustrating.
Yeah. That's like the whole point of the thing.
Like, if the song can be unsatisfying, that's it.
Yeah. Okay, meshes also just work. We have transparent meshes. This is amazing.
All because I'm here. We had actually big trouble. We also do the 2D in a 3D environment thing now with our new project. And we also do a lot of light baking. And Unity supports dynamic lights on 2D sprites and on 3D models, and it supports light baking on 3D models, but not on 2D sprites for some weird reason. And we had to build a big workaround where we generate a mesh, light bake that, copy the light baking data, move it over to the sprite renderer, delete the mesh, and then so it's like a whole thing that we have. It's like a Unity feature that we just had to write ourselves, and there's a ticket for it from like 2016. And they just don't fucking do it. Oh, well.
Yeah.
So it's always cool to see that you guys can just do this.
Yeah, I mean that's just
more.
obviously like the upside of having your own engine. But it's like it's difficult to get there. So
yeah, we
obviously.
couldn't do it. I don't think like we would like spend 5 years on it and probably give up. But still, it's sometimes frustrating to have to deal with. Like the other day, I wrote our like sales rep and was like, dude, there is this ticket that's literally stopping it. We spent months setting up this build server to like make like nightly builds, and it's supposed to run some test suites to like check for some things if our latest updates broke movement, if it broke the camera or something. And Unity just randomly crashes when you run multiple tests in a row. It just crashes. And there's also a ticket for it from years ago. And he was like, yeah, I can forward this to the engineers, but no promises. And then he did, and yeah, no promises. Because nothing happened since.
Yeah, I mean that's if you are like a big engine, you have so many customers, they probably need to prioritize a lot of things.
Yeah, true. And you pay so much for the higher tiers, and then you can pay extra for the good support. And even with that, like friends of ours supported their game to console, and they had memory leak issues on I think Xbox, and it was just an engine thing. And Unity had a whole team working on that, and it delayed the game by like a year.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. How does this look again? It's normal. Yeah. Perfect. I know that's it. I didn't expect this to be so little work, honestly. I mean that's mostly because Flora spent so much time on making the pipeline so flexible, I would say. So nice work, Flora.
You're welcome.
Maybe it wasn't my presence after all.
I'm sure that was very important too.
Yeah, I'm glad everything still works.
Yeah.
How it's supposed
It's
to.
actually, I'm just playing around with order, and you need to be aware those things are not really sorted. Like, they're just rendered in any order, and it actually looks fine. Like, I don't get the feeling we need to sort things.
That might be because they're all the same transparency.
That is true.
Or the same
But the
color,
thing
so you
is-
make one red or
Yeah, that's
green.
true. Like, that's because they're all like semi-translucent. But yeah, the thing is, like, that's probably what you want to go for. Like, subtle transparency is probably not something that will work well in that system anyway. Because then you also have like the shadow problem, right? If it's only slightly transparent, you only see it ever so slightly, the background, then the shadow won't fit anymore. So you want things to be like decently transparent. Man, I wish I actually could show this as I could show this as an actor. Maybe I can actually do that. Let me just hack this in. VM figure main. Okay, figure entity. Oh man. Okay. This view actor is true. So this is just an actor. Let's see. That should already be it. Yeah, Flora, you made the stream shorter.
I'm sorry, people.
So you're gonna, is there gonna be a stream painting?
Actually, yeah, I could do another stream painting, at least a short one. Like, I haven't done one in forever.
Maybe something with transparency? I don't know.
Fading away. Okay.
Looking through like a jar, and then it distorts the
Yeah.
face.
Right, that's what I meant. Now, the shadow is actually more subtle here because it's an actor, right? So that's not something we really can do on a per sprite thing. Like, we cannot change this property, but you know, my idea was like at least a lot of like dynamic sprite things will be actors. So I think the shadow thing won't really be like a big deal. I think it will actually look fine the way it is. Alright. Yeah, that was very quick. Right, so what else? Yeah, stream drawing, I guess. At
Very
least
well.
for half an hour or something. Any ideas? I think Ken is still gone, right?
I think so, yeah.
Maybe he
Yeah.
fell asleep. Fell asleep while gone.
Fell asleep on the toilet.
It's
No,
okay.
he has to wait for his
the thing
alarm
is gonna
to
make
ask him if
him-
he's awake.
Yeah, exactly. His phone is gonna ask him in a minute, and then it's gonna make him solve a math problem, and then he'll be back.
Yes, great.
I mean, something transparent, right? Like, I don't know.
I can just make a Uno and a lot of transparent Unos overlapping. That's just a cheap idea.
What
What about like looking through something that's like distorts her, like, you know, like a jar
looking through a
something?
blob?
or exactly a slime or something. I
Oh,
don't know.
yeah, alright, I can just make a huge slime and like a shocked Uno next to it. And then we can just say, yeah, we added alpha planning. Isn't that great, Uno? Uno's in front of a huge slime that we can now render appropriately. I think that works. Okay.
Yeah.
Just need to find Uno reference graphics because I didn't draw Uno nearly as much yet.
What's the name of your concept artist?
Sibylla is the new concept artist we have. Sibylla Hell. Oh no, I opened the original Uno image and it's huge. Oh, okay, let's not take this one.
I'm impressed you didn't skip any of that.
Yeah.
But then again, because I had some, I didn't want to scare our guests too much. I was keeping it to somewhat more moderate.
Yeah, good thing you
moderate weird things.
Good thing
I'm
you
not
did.
easy to scare. Come on. Did your phone wake you up? We had a theory that you fell asleep while you were gone.
No.
My
My phone. I neutralized my alarm clock like, I don't know. I woke up at 8 o'clock or something, but I think I was able to neutralize it at 11 or something, something like that. To give you a bit of an idea how long it sometimes takes.
Oh man,
it's really annoying. But I will look into it. By the way, Felix, you're a huge fan of the Highlight series, right?
Highlight?
Highlight, you know, the one game that came before Zelda that was a bit like Zelda that you played on...
gosh, yeah. Huge
and
fan.
you heard the first weird thing that I played, right? The one with the golfer guy who says things. There's actually this golfing game that was for the Sega Saturn, I think. And you do know that there's like, I'm not sure if I posted that already. I'm going to post it here. You know that there was a Highlight game for the Sega Saturn, right? Like
Virtual Highlight?
Right, that one.
I know that DK was like threatening me of visiting me and making me play it.
Yeah, right. And that had like those photograph graphics and stuff. And like an open world and things like that. And the same company apparently made some golfing game that used the same graphic engine. And that was where this video was from.
Which this video? Okay, let me look at it.
No, not that video. I mean the one that I posted at the beginning. This one, with this, and that video has like a former professional golfer who constantly talks and says like silly voice lines to you during golfing.
Okay.
It's really funny.
That one.
Yeah.
2 to the 1, 2 to the 1, 2 to the 3. I'd like
actually watched a few videos of that.
I don't
because it is actually really funny. It's very charming.
2 to 4, 2 to 5, 2 to 5. Today is make
because of how
break.
goofy
You
it
make
is.
the cut. I've got a great eagle on hole number 9. Think you can get it inside mine? Try your best in that. And study my shot. I've got to catch my rivals a lot quicker than I thought.
Yeah, that's
great. I
hard.
get my second shot on the green from
What?
here.
You mean the video that I
Yeah, watching it again for
Nice
everyone to
par.
enjoy.
Let's hope you win next time.
It's great.
Nice bar. Let's hope you win next time.
I also love those. I also love those victory anime. Those victory FMV. Oh man, of like the whitest people you could think of celebrating very over the toply. Oh man.
Alright.
Hydration check, everyone.
Oh yeah. Let me drink something.
just hydrated. Someone in the chat is asking if you guys been watching / playing something lately.
I actually recently finished the new Kirby game for Nintendo Switch, and well, I thought it was nice. It was.
You recommend it?
Yeah, it's like the difficulty is, well, it's a Kirby game, so it's like it's fairly easy overall. But the thing is, I didn't play a lot of Kirby games, so it's a little bit hard for me to compare it with other Kirby games. But to me, it felt a little bit like a Mario Odyssey, just more combat focused, because you actually have a lot more combat moves as Kirby, and you can even level them up.
Is that Kirby and the Forgotten Land?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, that's already on my wish list. Just saw.
Yeah, and it's well, has some good music. It had some interesting setting and plot twists.
Okay.
Yeah, like it's not very deep story wise, but it's a little bit interesting at the ends, because they kind of like, I think they made the twist a little bit more darker than you would originally expect. I'm not sure if that's normal for Kirby though.
Yeah, I mean Kirby. I mean it's always the joke about Kirby that it's like the most happy-go-lucky game on the surface, but you usually have some really bizarre, like eldritch creatures that you fight against at some point. Like,
all right, yeah, the game delivers on that as well, I would say.
Okay.
Shadow.
The shadow. I just had to search for that again. It's a bit quiet, but whatever. I mean, I heard, if you think about it, have you played the Super Nintendo Kirby game, like Kirby All Stars?
No, actually not. I think I barely played any Kirby. That's
Oh, that's interesting, because I mean Kirby
I played the
always...
Game Boy game. That's why I remember.
Okay, yeah, I played that too. I mean Kirby was always somewhat easier, especially in the platforming, because you could fly and all.
Yeah.
But actually, I mean, the Super Nintendo game was also really interesting because, first of all, you had tons of abilities, and also even within the abilities, you had like tons of combat moves too. Like, for example, when you had like the sword or like the what was it? Like the this one karate ability, you had like almost fighting game like button combinations that let you make special moves and stuff like that. And I think you even had like a pause menu where you could look up your control combinations, because there were so many at times for all those abilities that you got. For example, the judo ability and stuff like that. It's actually really interesting. And that game also had like I think 8 different story modes that got harder with time. And the harder ones actually had some really somewhat challenging boss fights that also got somewhat like more on the bizarre, like dark eldritch kind of fight. I mean, it's always Kirby still. It's always in cheek and stuff like that. But I mean, still, I mean, you have like characters like Meta Knight, who's like, I'm like the. Yeah. Anyway.
The interesting thing about like Forgotten Lands is that it's really easy overall, but it wasn't like easy in a way that it's trivial and boring. Like, it's a bit hard to describe. For instance, it's very easy to finish just finish a level and get to the end of the game, but it actually does give you a lot of optional challenges. For instance, each boss fight has a challenge of just beat the boss without taking damage, and that can be a little bit challenging, and sometimes it took me a while to actually get this. And then there's like the post game, where once you actually once you beat essentially beat the game, there's like a whole new level that you can do, and that was fairly nice from the difficulty. And actually, when I bet the last boss of the game, I actually never did like the final arena thing, so maybe that one is surprisingly hard again. But the final boss was, well, I did beat him on first try, but it was very, very close and I almost died, so I guess that's good. I mean, it's obviously not a From Software game, so...
I was just gonna say, like, that turns me off way less than hearing, like, oh, you're gonna die 400 times for every boss.
Yeah.
I don't have time for that.
Yeah, that's also like,
True.
I'm not sure I would have the patience for that, and that's why... Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the game overall. I mean, I did finish it. I think I even almost 100%ed it. Like, I did play the post game. I got all the optional things in all the levels, and well, I mean, game can't be that bad if I did all of that.
True.
True. I was kind of unfamiliar with the concept. Especially hadn't played Nintendo games in a long time. My last console before I got the Switch was Nintendo 64, and there's a bit of a gap there. But I played Mario Odyssey and I beat it in a couple hours, and then I was like, that's kind of a short game. And then I realized that it's basically the start of the game, and you have like two or three times the amount of time you can put into it again afterwards.
Yeah, the thing is, I actually also finished Mario Odyssey, but I actually never went much into the post-game content. Maybe I should do that. I don't even know why. I think for whatever reason in Kirby I had this... I think I just felt less pressure when I was playing Mario Odyssey. I had this... I think I felt like, oh, I have to move on, I have to play other things, or I have to work on projects. But now I actually feel like I can spend some time with games again.
Yeah, I can. I actually didn't play much. I mean, I could talk about how the recent Arknights event started, and I'm like, oh man, I really like this scenario, and the writing is really nice and interesting, especially for a gacha game. But Jesus Christ, are those cutscenes fucking long again? It's like, oh, I start a mission, then I have 20 minutes of like visual novel style cutscenes to read. Then I have 5 minutes of gameplay, and then another 20 minutes of visual style cutscenes to read after the fight. I'm like, man. And someone told me on Discord, I'm not sure if he was joking, that the entire event in total has like half as many words as War and Peace. And I'm not sure if that's a joke or not, but I could almost see it.
Wow.
Wait, how many words does War and Peace have?
What's War and Peace?
Dude. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands.
587,287 apparently.
It's a novel by Tolstoy. And
Yeah, it's a
pretty
Tolstoy
long.
novel. It's very long. Oh, here's a nice picture. Nice. Just gonna put the picture in Discord.
1225 pages.
I mean, I assume it's a joke because that sounds a lot, even for such an event. But still, man, it's so. Again, I like the writing and I really love the scenario. It's the scenario in those in Arknights, and especially in that kind of in that part of the world. But man, there must be a way to shorten the dialogue a bit. Come on.
There's always a way to do that. It's just
No,
in fact,
Felix.
I would argue like if the writing is too long, it's not good writing. Like I consider this like, just bad. Like you can always
Would
get
you-
to the point.
Would you
Awesome.
say would you say it's cannot good enough?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, again, I still enjoy it. It's just like, man, please, my life, my time on this earth is limited. I mean, the good thing is you can always skip it, and you have like a TLDR whenever you try to skip it. Like, oh, it basically summarizes what's happening in the scene in like 3 sentences. Yeah, that's it. In other news, I actually
What
started...
is this Polka Megalovania remix?
I don't know. We have weird stuff in our playlist.
It's from some album from Lenich and Kyria, are those two called. They made some acoustic Undertale polka covers
Amazing.
as an album. It's actually really nice. And I just know how much Felix likes Megalovania, so...
Yeah, it's my favorite.
Well,
Okay.
I was gonna say about the text-heavy stuff. We have this very text-heavy game, and I thought like, oh, we have to really pay attention to cut it down, and all the pacing is slow, and was a little paranoid about it. And we did try to keep it short and sweet for the most part. And then I played Disco Elysium, which was like super critically acclaimed, and it's probably a very good game. And people are probably gonna kill me for this, but I sat through the first hour and I was like, oh my god, it's still the same first scene. I'm still standing outside that fucking tree and reading shit. I'm done and I literally have a master's degree in literature and I was reading too much.
Did you play the final cut or the?
I don't know. It's been a while, so
Because
maybe
because the final cut has like full voice acting, and that adds a lot. I think it's
Okay.
like
Yeah.
I'm usually someone who's like,
But
I'm
then I
really
have to wait for the fucking voice
Yeah.
line to finish.
You don't, you
too.
can
It
skip.
makes it even longer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
don't really
true.
think the voice acting helps in any way, honestly.
I mean, for me, I think it did. I mean, thing is, I am a fast reader and I like to read. But for Disco Elysium, it's one of the few games where I actually often waited for the voice lines to finish because the voice acting was so good.
Okay.
I think
And
it's really like on the thing is, to me that feels a little bit like reading a novel that likes to describe the environment a lot. Like I also read like A Song of Ice and Fire, and if you read this, sometimes I feel you have to take a little bit patience because it just keeps describing sequences, and you just have to read this. And Disco Elysium feels like this. Like Disco Elysium has, I enjoyed the game a lot overall, but it has these moments where like you need to play it and you just need to be ready to just take your time and read things. And actually,
Definitely.
kind of like if you try to rush to the goal in Disco Elysium and you really want to finish it, like I think it's not that enjoyable because a lot of time you're just walking around and doing random things. And if you don't find this enjoyable, then I think it's not that great, because it's so much about just doing random stuff and enjoying the journey, so to say. And eventually you will also make progress with the story, sometimes if you don't even expect it, really. Like,
Right.
it's sometimes
I
just
like,
randomly find stuff and then, oh, okay, I guess it's connected to the main plot.
It's
Right.
really interesting how the story it's sometimes connecting to the main story in many cases.
Yeah.
Okay. Nah,
Well,
I'm
I mean-
really a fan of like curated, short, linear things. I'm currently playing through Little Nightmares 2 on my Steam Deck, by the way, and it's so good. And I'm happy that it's short and has these ideas and does them for a bit and then throws them away before they get old. I really like it. And all the encounters are super cinematic. It's super well paced and planned out. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I can understand that, really. Like, for instance, I was trying to play Disco Elysium with my girlfriend, and playing this with another person is probably not a good idea because it's like there's so much text reading and it can get boring if not both are like really into that at this moment. But as I played that for my own, it kind of worked out. Like there were like moments where it felt like I barely did anything in the session, but then something really cool happened again, and then I was motivated, and it was kind of like that.
For me, it also, for me, I also at first had some moments where or like a bit of time before I really got into the game, but then I got absorbed into it so much that I just really loved the characters. I loved listening to the voice acting, and the world was so good and everything that I'm like, man, it's so good. It's like, man, I love the story so much, and I even rewatched a lot of scenes because I liked them so much.
Yeah.
I don't
Maybe
know.
there's this threshold that you need to cross to get into it, and
I
then
would
you're
agree,
really
yeah.
into it.
Yeah, the thing is, the downside is like it really depends on how you play the game too. Like if you're unlucky and literally sometimes you just randomly miss a check, then suddenly everything takes longer. That's actually something that can happen in this game, and that might be really frustrating. Like I know there's this, in the beginning, without spoiling too much, there's this one corpse of the tree, right? And then there's like this check if you want to shoot it down, and you can miss that check and then you failed and you don't get it down, or you can succeed and then it falls down, then you can proceed actually very quickly.
We had
Yeah.
this rule about choices. If they're not choices that change or mean anything, or if they're not interesting, we just cut them out and we just make something happen. One of the two things that's better. And this I would look at like as a game designer or as a writer and be like, what's the advantage of being able to miss out on this? Like how is the game better if I can screw this up and take longer and the pacing takes a dip? What is this good for? And
I
if
think
I
it's
can't
a
come up with
lot
a really
like
good
a,
reason, then
I
I'm
don't
gonna cut
know.
it.
I feel it's
In
a
the
lot
game,
like a
it-
pen on paper game session because
It is, yeah. And the thing is,
sometimes things just go wrong there, and then things take forever. And I don't know. Some people enjoy this, I suppose.
I think you described it a bit wrong. It's not really. Of course, things do longer, but the thing is, if you miss the shot, then that's often also because of your skill set. Your skill set was not suited for that, or you got unlucky. Of course, can also happen.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's not just that it takes longer. It also means that you have to explore a different way to get it down, which also is interesting.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
mean,
the thing is, the game
yeah.
gives you a lot of solutions to solve things, and I think that's probably what makes it interesting. So the game doesn't make you fail indefinitely. You always find some solutions to things, and that's why you can actually play it in many different ways too, I think.
That's really cool.
if
I
you-
really like
yeah.
that about Divinity Original Sin 2.
oh, Divinity! I still need to play it further, man.
I'm on the second to last island with my girlfriend, but we haven't played in like a year. I forgot everything.
Yeah, I can see that. But that's also a game. I mean, I'm still playing the first one. That game also took a bit of time for me to really get into it because I sometimes felt that the combat was a bit too not hard, but rather it often felt I don't
Very
know
long.
how. Yeah, long. It almost felt a bit limiting at times because I sometimes felt like. First of all, there's a lot of random chance, of course, that you miss stuff and things like that. And also, I sometimes felt that that certain strategic choices didn't really work the way you would expect them to work. But it's hard to describe, especially since it's like a few months since I last played it. But with time, it worked out better. But one thing I still want to say about Disco Elysium is that I mean that's exactly the point that you sometimes fail and then need to take a different route, and that's how your story basically develops and how your character build informs what route you will most likely take, and that's basically the core of the entire game design in Disco Elysium. That you will never fail indefinitely, but you will always somehow organically reach your goal, but maybe through different means, and that's what makes the game so interesting in many ways.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, there's also this thing that you will never be that you can solve the game without finding out a certain important thing about the corpse, and you know what I mean, most likely. The real cause of death, basically.
Yeah.
You might actually never find it out and still solve the case somehow. It's really, really interesting stuff like that.
That's a really tough nut to crack.
Yeah.
Like from a game design perspective, we struggle a lot with this right now. With like how to continue on with the story if the player does everything wrong.
I mean, the thing is, you can basically screw up so many relationships that you have with other people in the game. And then, which of course, if you have good relationships with them or like go certain ways, it might help you to achieve something, but you can still screw those up and still proceed. Like there's only one skill check in the game that you have to, at some point, be able to succeed in to solve the game, and you can succeed. You can repeat the skill check like pretty often whenever you increase a certain skill point. And they made it so clever that like a ton of side quests and a ton of things you do in the game help you to with like skill check bonuses to solve the skill check at some point. So even
Is
if you
is this like this asserting dominance situation about
no, it's not that one. It's one of it's the shivers check. The shivers check that basically leads you to the
this hidden secret of that person?
to the hidden. Yeah, right.
Oh wow, yeah.
That one, and you easily realize that when you already solved a lot of side quests.
Actually, that
That
was
you have,
one
like-
point where I was stuck in the game because for whatever reason I just forgot about that place. I think I saw it, then I forgot about it and didn't visit it again. And that's why I was actually stuck at some point and didn't know where to go.
Okay, I can see that, but I think Kim usually can tell you where you have to go in that case if you talk to him.
I think. I'm not sure he actually had anything to say to me.
Okay, maybe not, but I think, or you still have your quest log in
Yeah,
in any
in the
case.
worst, I think at some point I did just Google something and then it was suddenly clear.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
was
you
gonna
can
raise
always
that point
Google.
earlier that when somebody asked if you can skip a puzzle, I thought game developers are aware that the internet exists nowadays and that you
Yeah.
can just Google shit in the worst case. I mean, it's sort of an immersion breaker and it sucks, but
Yeah.
nobody's gonna leave the game and never come back if they can't solve this one puzzle if they otherwise liked it. So you can, count on
Yeah.
somebody having posted the solution somewhere.
Yeah.
I still wonder which game that was that I had that in. Just going
Yeah,
through my
that's
Steam
true.
library, but.
It's also like it's a bit challenging to make puzzles skippable just technically. It's actually a little bit of work, I think, to implement this properly. That's usually the thing why I have a bit of a challenge just doing that. Like for battles, we did just the damage slider, and
Right.
I think you can decrease the damage by quite a lot in CrossCode, making a lot of the battles almost trivial.
Percent, I think.
So that was easy to implement, so that's why we just added that. For puzzles, it's just like, for me, I just want to make sure like it's easy to execute the puzzles. That at least can make it so easy that it's that part is at least doable. And yeah, I mean, if you cannot find the solution, there's internet, there's guides and all that.
I also played another game actually, or rather, I didn't play it a lot, or rather, I tested it. I would say. I played a bit of the alpha test version of Chain Echoes that I got at some point.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, I can't talk too much about it, other than it's fun. It looks really great, and it's super nostalgic because it feels so much like high-quality RPG Maker games in many ways.
Oh damn. Okay.
And I had so many Felserbor flashbacks actually in many ways.
Oh, no.
I mean, it has like a very similar fighting system, like with the with the CTB, or how was it called? Felserbor.
Yeah,
time
CTB. CTB
Final
time
Fantasy
system.
system.
Traditional turn-based system was something like this.
Right. And the way you explore the maps is also very. It also felt a lot of very Felserbor in many ways. And yeah, it's a ton of fun so far, and I'm really looking forward to playing the complete version. I mean, I'm gonna play a bit more in the alpha version because maybe I will actually report some bugs to make it better, to make it an even better game. But I'm really looking forward to it. It feels very nostalgic in a nice way.
I gotta try it sometime. Our publisher guy hyped it up a lot recently and told me, oh, it has such an amazing story, and like the intro is supposed to be very good, so I at least should play the beginning maybe. I don't know. How did you like the intro? I know.
It was okay.
It was okay.
No, it was a good intro. It definitely was a very good intro. I mean, it was. I wouldn't say it blew me away, but it It was good. It's basically very much expected in a good intro, basically.
Okay.
There's a super hilarious fake out actually. I'm not sure. Basically, the intro starts as like the most stereotypical low-key JRPG intro, like think Chrono Trigger or something.
Mm.
And then after like 1 minute, it turns out, oh no, it's not. It
Okay.
was pretty funny. I laughed.
Maybe
it's very,
that's what he means. This kind of unexpected twist. or something.
it's basic. It's not really a story twist. It's more meta humor for like
Mm.
nudge nudge. We all know JRPGs. Am I right, you guys?
Oh, okay.
Gets down on all fours and breaks into a sprint. He's gaining
Again with Shia LaBeouf.
I'm not sure if Julian knows it.
The track?
The Shia LaBeouf song, yeah.
Is that the yeah, the one with the choir and the orchestra? Yeah, I know that one.
It's really good.
It's an amazing production. Like,
It is,
The
it's
video
super
that
good.
goes with it is also very well made.
And I have to once again repeat, Felix.
Mm.
I actually didn't know about this whole thing until I saw a VTuber cover it.
That's great.
Yeah, and that's why you know it too now.
Thanks VTubers, I guess.
It's actually my favorite VTuber, Felix. Let me talk about her.
No.
She makes great ASMR. And ASMR helps me to have a good sleep, actually. I'm very happy about that.
Shia LaBeouf.
Such an earworm. It's terrible. Oh, also didn't even realize that. I mean, I realized that you were drawing something, but not what you were drawing. It's a slime.
It's a slime because, well,
Yeah.
we
This is
added transparency, so now we can add slimes. Yay!
Nice. We are kind of like slimes. We are very transparent. Vandal says, "Oh hey Hannah, let me tell you again that I own a Corona figure." Yeah, I saw it. It's really nice. But you know what's even better, which is something that I need to buy at some point, the joint Korone and Okayu couple Landoroid figurine. So cute. I need to post it somewhere.
To the floor, expressionless. You fall to your knees and catch your
Landoroid.
breath. You're finally safe from
Shia
Shia
LaBeouf.
LaBeouf.
I'm gonna post it in the Twitch chat.
Okay, I
Because it's
think
very
I'm
good.
actually almost done with the image. That was actually not too bad.
Felix, can you click on the link that I posted in Twitch chat real quick? It's really important.
It's arguably important. But,
In the Twitch chat.
Yes. It's important reference for you,
Closed.
Felix.
Closed.
Anyway.
Okay.
see, the painting also went quickly. It's just I'm your number one hype man, Felix.
What? Yeah, that's true. Everything goes
That's how
much
it works.
quicker. Okay. This is actually now the traditional song we play before the stream ends.
It was important that I played it.
Mm. Not sure
Oh,
if you
well,
know the
I-
background of this one, Julian.
No.
It's from a game called Xenoblade 2.
Oh
And
yeah.
this game is famous for having an enemy, like a soldier type of enemy, that's very common. And whenever you fight this enemy, it's saying certain sound samples very, very often. Like,
Oh,
think you can take me, don't forget me.
Forget-
And
Yeah,
that
and-
very quickly became a meme. And
Yeah.
they actually eventually patched it out. But the meme lives on forever in a song like this, where they kind of like just took the battle theme and mixed in those voice samples.
Oh man, that
Yeah.
reminds me. I saw a video of Video Game Donkey playing some platformer, and the character had these like 3 jokes. I think it was probably a Bubsy game.
Yeah.
There was this Bubsy.
Yeah.
That would lend itself to a remix as well. Same fucking, and none of them are funny.
The thing is, if it's a Bubsy game that you mean, Herdy K played the German version once, and the voice lines they used there were like the most tired and shitty German boomer memes.
That is that's a pretty accurate translation then, I think.
I can totally see it, but wow, it was so unfunny and terrible.
Oh man.
And the thing is, you had like an option, like a bar, an option, where you could increase and decrease the frequency of those voice lines. And if you put it all the way up, Babsy would basically do those voice lines for everything he did. Like for every fucking jump and for every enemy that it's
Oh my god.
jumped on. It's like, damn. Yeah, the thing about the Xenoblade 2 was also that you basically had 6 characters in your party. Because it had like those, you had 3 characters, but every character had like a support character basically. And everyone talked during the fight all the time.
Oh my god.
Like
All
saying
sorts of them.
attack names, like it was like your typical anime style JRPG. So they were screaming attack names all the time, and they were like, "Yeah, you can do it," and "Yes, that's great." or
So
something.
much talking. And then they decide to add like an enemy type that tried to one-up them in terms of talking. In addition to all of this. So
Really?
that was like, yeah, it was really annoying, but then it almost became hilarious and you were almost sad when it was gone. Like, rip.
I'm actually
We will
playing.
never forget them.
There's
Okay,
such good memeable bugs. That's always sad when they get patched out.
I actually
that
played.
one?
I actually put like a video of gameplay into the things.
Yeah.
Because before, so you can see how it sounds when fighting happens.
This is Chrono. This is Xenoblade 2.
Behave, don't forget me. And I think that was before the patch.
Oh my god.
I especially love this "you done" in between. It's like,
You're done? I mean, it doesn't sound much different from the remix, right? You have the same song and they say, behave. You can take me. It's just a minute long, by the way, so...
I just found the shiniest trinket. You want to see?
Oh yeah, and it has
shiny
like...
trinket. You wanna see?
Trinkets, it has like the British voice acting.
And the great thing about the new Xenoblade game, Xenoblade 3, is they decided to make it with a 6-party-member party. Isn't that great? 6 people in your party. And
it
they
8?
all will be talking. Most likely. All the time.
I mean, you have this system in CrossCode where if you have 6 enemies, they're not gonna attack 6 times as much as one enemy.
Yeah.
Right? I would hope that 6 people talking would talk about as much as, like, you know, twice as much as one person.
I don't know, for whatever reason, it's in particular Japanese games tend to just go all overboard with voice samples. Maybe it's kind of like a culture thing almost for them.
Yeah.
It's just what they do and it's what they like, and it's so weird. Like, even games that I enjoy a lot, like Vekai Profile, kind of like fall victim to this. And the irony is, when you actually play those games, it tends to be less annoying, but if there's somebody in the same room doing stuff while you playing this game and there's people talking all the time, it's so freaking annoying. I remember to this day when I was in this meeting, this meetup in Bremen, the NATO, and I was just playing very high profile there. And
I
at
just
some
wanted
point,
to.
people were complaining about it. Man, can you just turn it down? They're like, they just can't stop. They just don't stop talking. Always saying the attack names and everything. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the first time I actually noticed.
That's true. I still remember that, and I still remember that they thought it funny to even call your mother to call them. It was really dumb.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really dumb, but it's. I mean, in Felix's defense, there was also a lot of childish, immature. Oh, we are funny now to make him feel awkward mood in there because it was NATO.
What? Okay, I don't remember this part.
Yeah, I know. I was realizing it on the side, but it's like typical NATO behavior. Reason why I don't go there anymore. I just wanted to talk about something else in there.
Okay, I actually want to save the image because it's pretty much done now.
I want to check something. Right, here's the trailer. Felix, it's not 6 characters, it's 8.
Oh no.
I checked it. It's like.
Oh no, really?
Or it's 7. It's 7 or 8. I'm not sure.
I mean, there wasn't enough. It had.
I mean, let's share this. Let me share those UI clusterfucks with you real quick, because we talked about that a bit. Okay.
All right, that was great screenshots
from the trailer. I posted in Discord.
Yeah, okay. So here, UI, the game. This is like the game. It's like UI. Yes, UI here. This UI. This here, and there, and that's.
I'm gonna be honest. I am somewhat hopeful for the game, because I'm sure they will. It will be a good game again, and I really like the character designs this time again.
Yeah, I have to agree. Like the character design looks a lot better than the second game. I'm just a little bit concerned that it is just released so quickly, right?
Yeah,
it's just,
true.
Oh right. Oh, like here it is.
I mean, that's so unusual too. Like you have like they actually they didn't delay. They actually accelerated the release somehow. So
yeah, that
rare.
makes me a bit concerned. Like I just hope they didn't rush anything out for whatever reason.
Another thing about the voice acting. That also reminds me of like this one game called Dragon's Dogma that was also infamous for your party members constantly talking about nonsense, like constantly shouting harpy, 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 harpy whenever they saw a harpy, and it happened like all the time. I wonder if Ro is still in chat, because Ro is like a big fan of that game.
You know, I actually would like to have some voice lines in Terra, but yeah, we have to do that right.
It's not that hard to make voice lines work well. I think it's like a lot of games do that well. It's just mostly like JRPGs for whatever reason just overdo it all the time.
Dragons are weak to fire. Right, that's also something that happens all the time. Let's see. Harpy. Nope.
Okay. So, Google Drive. Copy, share with Google Drive. Change with link. Here we go. Here comes the images. Just through a JPEG.
Okay, what is this?
Share with Google Drive. And here's the PSD. So,
You got a good caption in mind yet?
well, mostly just described what we usually do in the stream. So we implemented transparent graphics, so now we can add enemies like slimes. Isn't that great, you know? And then I show the
Oh
symbol.
yeah, that's good.
Something like that. That was what I had in mind. Okay, but yeah, that was a pretty productive stream, I would say. Like,
You're welcome.
yeah, thank you. So,
Thanks. You should also
Oh, good
visit
job.
our. You should also visit our cross week, so we can all
Yeah.
profit
get
from
some
the
get some work done.
productivity buff.
I put all my skills in like aura, all my points in aura.
Yeah.
I just sit in the corner someplace and you guys work.
Oh gosh.
That's how it works. Before we stop, we need to really quickly say watch Spy Family. It's very good.
Oh yeah, I like it so far too.
We should watch
Spy
it
Family?
tomorrow. It's an anime that's really good. It's one of those animes that you can even watch if you're not into anime. I think it's just like
Then maybe I can watch it.
yeah, it's really good. It's like it's yeah, it's cute, it's wholesome, but it's also has like really cool action now and then and some very good emotional writing.
All right. I'm sold.
And
Right.
it plays in a scenario that's very very inspired by Cold War Germany.
Okay.
Very obviously.
Interesting. What is it with Japanese incorporating German culture and like aesthetics?
I don't know. For whatever reason, they just like it. It's probably
Yes.
kind of exotic to them.
It's exotic, yeah. And again, they also like to put like British aesthetics into it too. So
It's not just German. They're just like other
They're just
cultural
like the-
things mixed in.
they just like our exotic parts of culture, like bread and beer
Yeah.
and Fachwerkhäuser.
Our exotic schnitzels and lederhosen.
Yes, exactly. Okay.
Another fun fact that I'm sure you didn't know. You all know the word bonze, right?
Yeah.
Once yeah.
Did you know that the word actually comes from Japanese?
What?
It's true.
Bonze?
It's originally a Japanese word for like monastery higher ups or monastery leaders or something. They were called bonze in Japanese, and
Okay.
somehow it became a word that was used in German to describe like rich people.
It does sound a little Japanese.
Yeah,
It does, yeah. That's interesting, man.
It even says so in the. Let me just.
So
say
the
which-
Japanese
I got
got
it on
Albaito
Wikipedia.
and we
Yeah.
got Bonsa, I guess. So that's great.
Bezeichnete
Albaito.
ursprünglich einen buddhistischen Mönch oder Priester und stammt aus dem Japanischen.
Yeah, I saw. It's
It's
awesome.
super interesting.
Okay.
So
Now that you plugged the anime, can I plug my studio in the chat?
Sure,
No.
do that. I mean, let's
Yeah, of
let's
course.
give a shout out
Of course.
to Digitables and Lacunar.
This is
Let me just
hi,
post
this is
Lacuna.
Julian. And this is my studio. This is our yeah. There we
I'm
go.
gonna open this here. I can actually still very much recommend this game. Like I think it's despite what you have said, I think the writing is like very very well paced, so you can play through this game.
Thank you, guys.
Very pleasantly, I think, and it has a very interesting story.
yeah, I mean it's very well reviewed, as you can see.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't even see that you had like, or maybe I forgot that you had like 86 on Metacritic. That's nice.
Yeah, we had 88 on PC and 94% positive on Steam, which is a lot more than we thought. But hey, I'll take it.
Yeah, and you also had like quite a few reviews. It's not like it's just 100 or something
Mm.
or 50.
No, we had over 1,000 on Steam the other day, which is a lot for like an adventure.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely.
I think we passed by almost all German adventures that I know of.
Maybe I can't say because I don't really know the market so much. And another very important fact that you should know.
Oh,
I
except
curr-
Deponia
yeah.
and stuff. Sorry.
Yeah,
Like the old Daedalic games, they are way more famous
Obviously,
than ours.
obviously,
Yeah.
obviously. A small fun fact that's also very important for everything basically. I currently have 69 games on my wish list.
Very
That is-
important.
Yeah, good to
So
know.
when you
that. Thank
buy one, you gotta wishlist a different one.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that I need to do that.
Yeah. But yeah, so definitely check out our Lacunar, and you have a new game too, right? There's a trailer.
Yeah, if you click on the developer Digitize Interactive in the top right, then you can see that it's already up on the on our Steam page, but we haven't made a big announcement yet or anything. It's just we're farming wish lists.
Yeah. So the new game is Between Horizons, and similar to Project Terra, it will also have like a mix of 3D graphics and pixel art, right? So
Yeah. That's what I was really interesting to see what you guys do in terms of rendering. And we also have troubles with transparent objects, especially transparent stuff behind other transparent stuff. And
yep. Like at some point, if you want to be really accurate, you really actually need to sort things, right? So you need to just sort all the objects in a certain dimension, like in the viewing direction, more or less.
I just realized that you basically made the main character for me.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
yeah, it's female and red-haired, so.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But you can't.
That was our main thing. We had a focus group, and it was just him, and we thought, that's what our main character should look like then.
Yes. I mean, I'm not sure. I don't see a portrait. Does she also have freckles?
No.
Damn it.
There is a portrait already. We have a more detailed version of her face, but she doesn't have freckles, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean that's something that will give you at least 2 more points on Metacritic. You should change that.
And you know who made the portrait and all the portraits in this game? Martina.
Yeah, one of our pixel artists.
Oh, man, I should talk to her. This is the problem.
tell her to
use your connections
on the ladies.
I should make my connections. Also, before we stop, I'm just gonna post Chained Echoes as well in the chat. It's not by Julian, but it's by other cool people.
It's also by our publisher, so I'm sure they will be happy.
Very nice.
If you want to play Velzabor, if you want the Velzabor so badly, maybe check this one out. I heard it's kind of like Velzabor.
Again, Felix, you should definitely check it out at some point and tell me it doesn't give you Velzabor flashbacks in some ways.
I mean, it already does give me Velzabor flashbacks just looking at the video, the trailer a bit.
To be fair, Velzabor didn't have Max. Well, at least not playable.
Yeah.
Very pretty.
Yeah. The amount of pixel art is insane, actually.
Yeah.
And I think it's mostly by one person, too.
I saw the developer name is just some guy, and I thought, what the hell?
Fun fact is that guy that made it also comes from the Multimedia Axis, just as we do.
Yeah, also from the RPG Maker community.
Yep.
Awesome.
I mean, it's basically at least the third person who made it big who comes from there. Not person, but like a game that kind of has roots there, because you might have heard about Monster Sanctuary, maybe.
Yeah.
That one is also from the RPG Maker community. He made he's famous in the RPG Maker community for tutorials for custom combat systems, and also for game names that have like very obvious like puns. Legend of Drozomit. Developer note: Drozomit is time sort backwards. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, it really is. It's
Yeah. Drozomit.
Drozomit.
A lot of effects.
Yep, and that game also got really popular. Like,
yeah,
almost 5,000 reviews. It's pretty.
Yeah, and a lot more if you count all reviews because Steam
Yeah.
just counts.
Yeah,
all
right.
Mm.
We had that problem a few times in the past when like we reached our first 1,000 reviews and then we were back to 800 because Steam filtered like
Oh, they updated it in the middle
yeah.
of it.
Yeah, they basically filtered reviews from Steam keys, for example.
Yeah,
from-
and you did a
or from
crowdfunding
gifted.
thing. So
Yeah, right,
all your,
right.
all your fans, all your biggest fans' reviews didn't count. That's such
Yeah,
a
that's why we
hassle.
had several Steam artworks celebrating us reaching 1,000 reviews or something. That was really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like a
One, two,
YouTuber
four.
who gets into controversies a lot and has like reaches 1 million 3 times.
I'm still waiting for Pro Jared to reach the 1 million again.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He wanted to give up YouTube. He wanted to give up on YouTube on April 1st.
Yeah, right, that
And
one.
then
That was
this whole joke was just to give out a copy of the movie up on YouTube.
Oh
It was such a good joke.
That was very, very
really
good.
yeah.
And like the funny thing is, I actually, because I think I saw it on the day after the April 1st, I actually believed it. It was like, oh no, come on. And then like I didn't see the twist coming. It was like played very well.
Did they send it to you?
No, I
With,
didn't.
like-
I just saw it on YouTube, just randomly, really.
Okay. But I just want to say regarding Monster Sanctuary, I mean, you gotta admit, it has like two very good pitches in one. It has like Metroidvania and it has like Pokemon like monster catching. That's like, wow, yeah, you're in. You are come in.
Both
But
are super hard to do though.
Yeah,
and
of
that
course,
is,
it's super hard to do, and that it's so successful speaks for it being done very well.
Yeah. It's amazing. By the way, all this stuff on our store page, this is like pre-alpha stuff. This is all just from our pre-production. So this is already looking a lot better now. We're like 2 months into production now, and I think 10 months into the project as a whole. So this is all very, very early, but we're gonna update the store page with some new screenshots in a month or two. We're closing in on a vertical slice with everything in finished look in some areas, and then I hope it's gonna be a lot flashier.
I posted the artworks on
Yeah,
in Discord.
the two overwhelmingly positive. That
One is
was
from
before the change, and the one is after the change.
one is from where was it again? Damn it! One is from July 2016, and the second is from March 2017.
I like how Gaben grew a beard in the meantime.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
One is that Gaben and one is the other Gaben.
Oh, by the way, I guess completely false advertising. Did you see the video with Gaben delivering all the Steam Decks?
Yeah.
That-
I got mine from just some guy. What the fuck?
Impossible.
Maybe it was Gaben in disguise.
Maybe, but then he slimmed down a lot. Like
Well, he had to swim the Atlantic somehow, right?
that's true. That's true.
Also, to give us some perspective on time, remember when we did this artwork when the pandemic started?
Yeah.
Good thing that isn't still ongoing, right?
What?
From March 2000.
Yeah. Make sure to apply soap thoroughly. And we've even had like the stealing toilet paper thing. Oh my god.
Stealing toilet paper.
And
joke.
obviously, now we have another crisis, and people still buying toilet paper like crazy in some places.
Only
at
toilet
least.
paper, oil for some reason, because of course oil will be.
Actually, I think that's actually a thing, because a lot of the sunflowers
true.
are actually coming from Ukraine. So that is actually, that kind of makes
Yeah,
st But
kinda,
toilet
but-
paper?
But I think there's still not really a danger of much of a sunflower oil.
Well,
Shortage
sort of
because only-
self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy
Yeah.
because everyone is like hoarding it now. Then of course nothing is in the store anymore. Like, it's like,
Yeah. Very much. All right then. I think we are done with the stream.
yes.
Okay, should
We
we
are.
play the sign field So we get,
Oh, right. Sorry, I almost forgot. The
the one thing
um,
that we play before we end the stream.
yes, and which is totally not copyrighted.
No.
Oh.
At least so far we didn't get any strike.
I mean, it's already in public domain, I'm sure, because
Sure.
that's how it works. After 20 years, public domain, no worries.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway,
Right, so this is it. This concludes our Project Terra Gamedev stream. We did transparent things and they work. We did a small stream drawing of slimes you might not be able to implement. We talked a lot about stuff. Thanks for everybody for watching. Also thanks for Hannah and Flora to be here. Also thanks for Yuyan to joining our stream. Make sure to check out Digitales and yes, so hope to see you again next time for the next stream, whenever that will be, in maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And right, so that's all I have to say really. So until then, bye bye.
Bye-bye.
check out Lacuna. Yes, I
Lacuna.
just mixed up for something different.
Right.
Thank you guys for
No,
having me. Too.
I messed up the timing, so the music started. Anyway, so bye bye.
Oh, it's still here. Yeah,